close your eyes. Remember this. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. It's beautiful. Love like we never grew up, and live like you just get one tonight. We're kings and queens. One blink and it's over. Wake up and we're older tonight. We're kings and queens. Time flies when you get it right. So hold on tight to me. Love like we never grew up, and live like you just get one tonight. We're kings and queens. One blink and it's over. Wake up, but we're older tonight. We're kings and queens.
Want to go? We gotta take it slow. Here comes the fever. Here comes the fever now. Want to go? We gotta take it slow. Here comes the fever. Here comes the fever now. Want to go? We gotta take it slow. Here comes the fever. Here comes the fever now. Want to go? We gotta take it slow. Here comes the fever. Here comes the fever. Want to go? We gotta take it slow. Here comes the fever. Here comes the fever.
touch my skin and left your mark. You knew all the words to say. Held the strings tied to my heart. Pulled and pushed away. My friends don't bring you up no more. I'm sure yours don't mention me. I remember how we were before. It don't feel like memories. Why can't I get over you? Your love is a fire, it's still high on the fumes. I've done everything I know I can do. I'm still alive on you. I'm still alive. I'm still alive on you. I'm still alive. Why can't I get over you? Your love is a fire, still high on the fumes. I've done everything I know I can do. I'm still alive on you. I'm still alive. I'm still alive. Do you ever ask what if? Do you almost call? Am I the only one who feels crazy? 'Cause I still miss it all. Why can't I get over you? Your love is a fire.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're located. Anyway, this is Carl with Carl's Opinion for our live call-in show. And I just want to welcome everybody to the chat room and all those who will be joining later on. And I see Mr. Douchebag is out there right now, so I just want to warm welcome to the great Douchebag. And yeah, just hanging out and reading some news today and looking at some politics. And this is our Thursday night Roundup show. So welcome aboard and stay tuned for some good political discussion tonight. So let's see. Let's get right to it. One story I want to cover real quick, and then we'll get into the other politics. This kind of broke kind of late tonight. So actually broke about just an hour and a half ago in the Washington Times. A big shout out to the Washington Times. So let's cut over to that right away, and let's just go right into it here. And let's see. Let's get me on here real fast. Boom. There we are. Hey, well, let's just move. Let's see. That's probably where we're going to want to be eventually anyway. Let's see. Keyboard, good. All right, John Roberts. Let's bring this down a little bit here. John Roberts joins liberal justices as Supreme Court blocks. Let's see. We go down here. There we go. Nope, I want to be on the other side. All right, hold on. Let me just bounce over to the other side real quick. There we go. Hey, there I am. Hey, so there you are. And let's see. So Washington, divided Supreme Court stopped Louisiana from enforcing new regulations on abortion clinics in a test of the conservative court's views on abortion rights. What this law was doing was that Louisiana had passed a law saying that if you want to perform abortions, you have to have hospital privileges at a nearby hospital. And the reason for that was, abortion can be a pretty tricky procedure. They want to make sure these doctors who are performing these operations were qualified to do so. Basically, one test of a qualification is that if a hospital is willing to grant you privileges to conduct surgeries at their location, and if a hospital is not willing to grant you privileges to actually operate, like right now, if you go to the hospital now, you'll see when you're signing the sign-in thing and you're signing for surgery, it'll say the doctor is not is not an employee of the hospital. He is allowed here. He has privileges to conduct surgeries here on his patients. And a lot of that, a lot of what that is to absolve the hospital of liability if the doctor messes up. It's like, well, you can't sue us if the doctor did it. We just allow him to use our operating room and our equipment, and then we charge him a small fee for that, and then and then of course we charge you, the patient, a fee for that as well, and we allow him to conduct operations here, at the hospital, and that goes for the anesthesiologist and his team. The nursing staff and things of that sort, they are, actually, hospital employees themselves, but the actual doctor himself is not. So one good test to see if a doctor is, worth anything is that if a hospital is willing to grant him privileges. Because even though when they say, okay, he's not an employee, we're absolved of liability, there's always a way to sneak in liability for the hospital somehow. In other words, if the hospital allowed a doctor who they know is a complete screw up to have privileges at his hospital, and when you're at the hospital, they say, oh, this is your surgeon. That's pretty much how it's presented to you. Even though you can sign whatever you want, but if you go to court and you're suing the doctor in the hospital, and the hospital says, oh, he's not an employee of ours, you can't sue us, and the patient says, well, they walked in and said, here's your surgeon. They didn't say, here's a choice. They said, or you can choose somebody else. They said, no, here's your surgeon, and you're in pain and you're suffering and you're miserable. You don't really have a choice in the matter. So you could find a way to sneak in. So plus, if the hospital allows somebody who they have knowledge that is a complete mess up, and kills people on the table all the time, well, the hospital's not going to be completely absolved of liability. You'll be able to hook them in somehow. So if a hospital's not willing to grant somebody privileges, that says a lot about the doctor. So Louisiana was kind of saying, hey, this is a good way to make sure. Not to mention, like, say something goes wrong in the abortion clinic. You want that doctor to be able to, take his patient over to the nearest hospital. And if he doesn't have privileges there, he can't be the one doing anything to fix the problem. And considering he was the one who was doing the operation, the abortion to begin with, it'd be best to have that doctor, follow through with whatever procedure they need to do. And anyway, so the I believe the district court heard the case, and well, instead of me guessing, let's kind of come on down to this a little bit here. Okay, the justice said by a 5-4 vote late Thursday that they will not allow the state to put into effect a law that requires abortion providers to have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals. Now, they're just holding it up. It's like they're saying, okay, we're going to hold this up until we get to hear the full case and hear all the facts of the case. And they may, obviously they won't be hearing it this year. They may have to decide in the spring if they're going to hear it for next year's October session. So let's continue on here. Chief Justice John Roberts joined the court's 4 liberals in putting a hold on the law, pending a full review of the case. John Roberts, if you remember correctly, is a George W. Bush appointee. He's the one who also sided with the liberals on the Supreme Court to say that the individual mandate was constitutional, when he had to find some really tortured logic to do that. It was a tax or it was not a tax. It was a fee. It wasn't a fee. It wasn't properly worded. It was a mess. Obviously, there was plenty of room for him to say, no, it was, in fact, unconstitutional. But he sided with the liberals on that one. Again, he's a George W. Bush appointee, so how conservative he really is, well, I think he's been kind of showing his hand. He sided with the liberal court on just recently on another issue. It was a pretty big one. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but I remember it was pretty nasty. And then also he called out Trump for saying we have Republican justices and Democratic justices. Oh no, we're completely neutral. Well, that's not true. Although maybe today he's trying to say, see, look, I am completely neutral. In your face, I'm going to vote against what I know you want me to vote on. And of course, President Donald Trump's 2 Supreme Court appointees, Justice Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, did in fact vote with Justice Alito and also Justice Thomas as part of the dissent. And I believe Brett Kavanaugh wrote the dissent. Kavanaugh wrote a dissenting opinion in which he said the court's action was premature because the state had made clear it would allow abortion providers an additional 45 days to obtain admitting privileges before it started enforcing the law. So, Kavanaugh saying, hey, look, Chief Justice, you don't need to do this so quick. You could have held off a little bit and, we could have allowed them a little bit of time, to get this sorted out. And they're going to allow another 45 days also. But that wasn't good enough for Chief Justice Thomas here. Let's see what happened here. Let's see. went down too far. Up. And punch it back up. Up. Well, that story got messed up. Okay, well, I didn't like that format anyway. That wasn't part of the E format, so let's just get rid of that one. I don't know why that's doing that anyway. Close off of that. There we go. All right. Well, let's get to some other news, and I'm going to switch back over here to where I belong on the overlay channel. So hold on a second. Let me just get myself back to where I belong. Okay, overlay. Boom. There. Okay. And we'll take off this little thing up here. We all know who I am. I'm Carl's Opinion. No kidding. Hey, and let's get this story up here. All right. So let's get to the other news of the day. Trump expects full battlefield defeat of Islamic State in days. This is a good story. This is, everybody saying, oh, you shouldn't be pulling out of Syria so fast. We need to fight this endless war in Syria because we have, already one endless war in Afghanistan that's now been going on for 17 and a half years, the longest war ever fought by America in the history of America. 17 and 1/2 years. There are kids who are fighting over there right now who were born just like a year before 9/11. They were babies. They didn't even know what 9/11 was, and yet they're over there fighting because we went over there after 9/11. There you go. So let's take a look to see what's going on with this story. This is by Carlos Unez of the Washington Times. Again, great shout out to the Washington Times. This is their, let me push this up a little bit for everybody so you can see a little bit better. There we go. President Trump predicted Wednesday that the Islamic State's caliphate in Iraq and Syria will be 100% liberated within days. Whoa. And he must have been talking to the Turks and the Syrians and the Russians because they're probably getting ready to launch a big offensive. They only hold like 21 square miles, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. That's not a lot of land. You're talking like that's like 5 miles by 4 miles wide. I mean, that's not a lot of land. You can come kind of go in there with artillery and air power, bombard the hell out of him, send the ground troops in and dig him out of the tunnels and the caves, not caves, but like, the basements and crap like that and whatever else they dug into. Caliphate in Iraq and Syria will be 100% liberated within days while telling a major gathering of allies at the State Department that his planned pullout of U.S. forces from Syria will not undercut the mission of wiping out the terrorist group's surviving assets. Here we go. Speaking to representatives from the 79-nation global coalition to defeat ISIS, Mr. Trump said he was just awaiting official word on the group's complete battlefield defeat from U.S. commanders on the ground. They'll be informing us very soon officially, but it's 100%, Mr. Trump said during his keynote address to the coalition. You cannot do more than we have done militarily against a terrorist organization, said Mr. Trump, noting that the ISIS caliphate has been decimated and nobody thought it was possible to do it this quickly. If you remember correctly, during the Obama administration, we had a big meeting at the Pentagon, and he walked in there and he said, well, ISIS is really bad, but this is going to be a generational fight. It's going to take a generation to wipe them out because they're dug into the cities and the villages, and it'll be very hard to get them out of there. So for a full generation, I guess he was planning an endless war in Syria and Iraq to get rid of them if he really ever wanted to get rid of them. My opinion, he did not. That's just Carl's opinion. Obviously, if he had wanted to do it, Trump did it within 2 years, less than 2 years. He could have done it just as quick. So obviously, if it wasn't done, it was only because he didn't want to. It's the same military. It's the same generals, the same guys. So it wasn't like, Trump came in and did something miraculously. He just said, okay, go get them. Took the gloves off, changed the rules of engagement. Allow them to go in and actually take these guys out, take the fight to them, allowed everybody to just go in and just wipe them out like they weren't standing there. We didn't see a lot of big, deep dive stories into that. There could have been a lot of really interesting stories that came out of how we wiped them out from 20,000 square miles, I think it was, down to like 20. But, of course, nobody wanted to cover that story because it was Trump doing it, and President Obama had been the one doing it. Trust me, it would have been news reporters all over the place saying how great he was. But, yeah, President Obama said, well, it's going to be a generation, and you saw the brass sitting around the table going, it could be a lot sooner if you wanted to, but he didn't want to, and so there you are. So, so what he says, noting that nobody thought it was possible, well, he's referring to the former president of the United States because he said, "Oh, we'll be here for a generation trying to take care of these guys because they're dug in so hard." Well, obviously not that hard. So, Mr. Trump's remarks tracked his State of the Union comments. Hold on, let me grab a cigarette, and nobody minds. All right, let's take a look at something real quick. All right, so let's see. Yeah, Mr. Beck, just doing good, just doing the same old, same old. All right, so let's take a look here, and let's see. Let's take a look at the story. Go back to here, please. All right. So, Mr. Trump's remarks tracked his State of the Union. Let me pull it up. Comments, but come at a delicate time. The president's plans to withdraw troops from Syria and possibly cut by half the U.S. deployment in Afghanistan have many allies fearful that Washington is declaring victory prematurely. U.S. officials said the State Department summit Wednesday was a way to get allies in the region and around the world together to fashion a coordinated message as the battle against the Islamic State enters a new phase. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told the gathering that the planned withdrawal is not a change in the mission, but a change in tactics against a group that still poses a threat. He called on the coalition to increase intelligence sharing and repatriate and prosecute captured foreign fighters. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, in other words, why is this all on our shoulders? I mean, these guys have been causing mischief and mayhem around the world, primarily in Europe. Where are the Europeans? How come they're not? How come they're not that all dug in and down there and stuff like that, and letting their guys get killed? No, they're back home safely in Brussels, saying, "Oh, this is terrible. Yeah, we should do something." Oh, you're there? Oh, United States? Okay, you take care of it. Oh, but hey, those are our guys down there. Those are our guys getting killed. Those are guys doing the shooting and the fighting and the dying and having to live in a desert, and go through all the hell that entails. Why don't you get some of your own guys down here? Why again are we the policemen of the world? They talk all this shit about us over there at the EU and in Brussels. The big bad awful United States. Oh, and Trump's terrible. We hate him. But oh, by the way, can you guys die for us? Uh, hey man, you're just talking shit about us. If you can ask somebody for a favor, don't talk shit about them. We don't need people to kiss our ass. Don't get me wrong, but there's a big middle ground between kissing somebody's ass and talking shit about them. So, they could find somewhere in the middle. I don't know. But, that's Europe. So there you go. Let's see. We are ready to come back in full force if ISIS reemerges in Iraq or elsewhere, said Mr. Pompeo said. The Islamic State has relinquished control of wide swaths of territory in Iraq and Syria in a wake of the U.S.-backed offensive against the new group beginning in 2015. The terrorist group's Syrian remnants have dug into positions in a small sliver of territory near the city of Deir al-Zor. The land is gone, and that is a big factor, Mr. Trump said Wednesday, but the president acknowledged that many of his top military intelligence officials have been saying in recent days that the Islamic State will continue to pose a threat to the U.S. and its allies. Well, yeah, I mean, they were a threat before they had that caliphate. I mean, we've had Islamic terrorists before they had the caliphate. It's just that they were able to recruit a lot of people by having the caliphate. And look, we're winning. Come join us. We're great people. You join the winning team. I'm sure the recruiting efforts have gone downhill, but, you can still find 5 guys to somehow smuggle into a country and then, lay low for a while, find some homemade bomb-making equipment, make a couple of bombs, walk into an airport and blow it up. I mean, or find some illegal weapons and shoot up, a mall or something. I mean, that's still going to happen. It doesn't, whether we have 2,000 troops in Syria or not, it's not going to change that. So, I mean, yeah, so the next time, God forbid, a terrorist attack happens, everybody say, oh, well, because we didn't have 2,000 guys sitting in the desert in Syria. Well, no, that's not it. Plus, once we leave, and I said this before, we unleash the Turks and the Syrians and the Russians, and they don't have the same rules of engagement we have where they have to be all nice. Trust me, these people are gone. I mean, the Turks aren't letting these people sit around. Now, the Turks also have a bone to pick with the Kurds, who, set up terrorist bombs in their country because they want their own country, which includes part of Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, and I think part of Iran. And nobody's giving that up anytime soon. So, but, again, why are we the only fans of the Kurds in the entire world? And if everybody else loves them so much, send your own troops down there to protect them if you're really that concerned about it. But nope, just us. They will reform, and we know that, but they are having a hard time reforming because so many of the Islamic State's top operatives have been killed or captured, Mr. Trump said. U.S. intelligence agencies estimate the Islamic State, even with the loss of its territorial base, still has tens of thousands of supporters in the Middle East, as well as active branches in countries such as Afghanistan and the Philippines. Also Nigeria. I just heard a story about that. Mr. Trump acknowledged that the job remains unfinished. You'll always have people that will be around, Mr. Trump said, but we'll search them out, and you'll search them out, and hopefully they won't be around very long. Mr. Trump complicated the mission with a suggestion over the weekend that the U.S. will have an indefinite military presence in Iraq to prevent a resurgence of terrorist threats and to watch Iran. But his remarks angered officials in Baghdad who said the U.S. military is in the country at Iraq's invitation and that Iraq should not be dragged into other regional fights. Well, yeah, I mean, the Iraq government is very friendly with Iran. Gee, go figure. Yeah, well, there you go. Thank you, President George W. Bush, for doing that. We had a nice little buffer there with Saddam Hussein, keeping Iran, in its own little backyard. Then, of course, George W. Bush decides, let's invade Iraq for reasons. There were none. And all he did was take out our buffer between Iran and the rest of the Middle East, which includes now Syria, which were kind of, in a way, kind of weird on the same side. That's kind of strange, in a way, maybe. And then, of course, now they're in Yemen, and, of course, they're in Lebanon, and, wherever they get their little hands on. And, of course, then President Obama made it even better by handing them, a couple $100 billion of money we were holding up that we held after they took our guys hostages back in 1979. So it's like, and then, just here, take this money, and, of course, what do they do with it? Do they help their own people? No. They spend it on more missiles to launch at Israel. Yay! Oh, don't worry, we'll just send Israel a bunch of money to set up a missile defense system. Well, if you didn't give Iran all the money to buy the missiles, to build the missiles, to give the missiles to Hamas, and to shoot at Israel, then we wouldn't have to send them so much money in anti-missile defense. And anti-missile defense, it's like anything else. It's not 100%. People still get killed. People still get hurt. And who the hell wants to... you're laying in your bed at night. Just think, here in the United States, and all of a sudden, you have to worry every night that, Canada's going to lob a couple of missiles at you. And you're wondering, how come we just don't invade Canada? Well, there's all this political pressure. Can't go into Gaza. The Israelis can't go into Gaza. They can't go into the West Bank. They can't go anywhere to root these people out, because whenever they do, the whole world cries, oh, my God. And they show pictures of the babies and the family, the collateral damage, and it's like a big deal. But anyway, so the Iraqis are like, hey, don't speak so quick for us. We may not want you here. We have our friend. It's called Iran. Pretty much the Iranians are pretty much running a lot of the government in Iraq right now. Again, thanks George W. Bush, and thank you, President Obama. That was definitely a bipartisan effort on how to screw things up. Yay. Let's see. Okay. Mr. Pompeo met with Iraq Foreign Minister Mohammed Al-Kim on Wednesday to discuss a new agreement on U.S. forces in Iraq. Critics say President Obama's hasty withdrawal of U.S. combat forces in Iraq in 2011 created the security vacuum and allowed the Islamic State to flourish 3 years later. Well, actually, it was worse than that, because remember when they were coming down from the north and they were like making their push towards Baghdad and everything, they were only, I think, 5,000 strong. They were on the back of pickup trucks. I mean, one Marine Corps regiment with air support, Apache helicopters, and artillery. I mean, an Apache helicopter with a 20 millimeter or 30 millimeter cannon in the front nose, against a pickup truck. I mean, pickup truck gone, and they were out in the open. I mean, they were going between cities. They were like out in the open, going between the cities, out in the desert. I mean, it was just, air power could have just taken those guys out like they weren't standing there. And Obama didn't want to send anybody back in. And everybody's like, well, just send. You don't have to send a lot. You can send a little. We can take them out. Well, he didn't want to. And in my opinion, again, he didn't want to take them out because he could have. Then he was like, oh, they're the JV team. Remember he said that? Oh, they're nobody. They're nothing, because he's making excuses as to why he wasn't taking them out, because he wanted them to flourish. He wanted the Islamic Caliphate, in my opinion, to flourish in the Middle East. Again, if he didn't want it, it could have been taken out. Trump did it, and, if you don't like Trump and you think he's an idiot, well, okay, the idiot did it, so that means the genius, if you think Obama's a genius, he could have done it. But he chose not to because he didn't want to. And again, that's Carl's opinion. Yay. But, yeah, Mr. Dupe, if you want to call in, feel free to call in. You got the number there, 775-273-8970. Again, that's 775-273-8970. And, yeah, did you get a notification on this, Mr. Douchebag? Just curious. So yeah, just let me know. I'm curious if people are getting my notifications or anything like that. So, or you just kind of bouncing around and this just kind of punched up. So I am kind of a little curious on that. But let's see here. All right, so let's get back to the story. Actually, let's find a different story because we kind of talked this one out. Let's see. Let's get rid of me here real quick. Boom. Trump, China vital to Russian nuke pact. Oh, that's an interesting story. Let's check that out. All right. Let's see what we got here. All right. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Trump, China is vital to Russian nuke pact. Let's make sure we got everything loaded. All right. Again, the Washington Times. Thank you, Washington Times. And put me back up in here. Boom. There's me. Hey, everybody. Okay, China's status as a rising global power has rendered Cold War era missile pacts between Washington and Moscow obsolete, and President Trump this week signaled that the only, let's see, here we go, signaled that the only way such agreements can be preserved is if Beijing is willing to limit its burgeoning military capabilities as well. Armed controls analysts said a relatively brief passage in Mr. Trump's State of the Union speech Tuesday evening justifying the withdrawal from the Cold War-era intermediate-range nuclear force treaty with Russia was a nod to a vastly complicated topic: how to re-engineer nuclear pacts negotiated with the long-gone Soviet Union for a vastly different strategic landscape. Mr. Trump said he was ready, in theory, to replace a decades-old U.S.-Russia missile treaty that the White House scrapped just days ago. Analysts say that decision and the president's implication that any agreement without China is essentially useless was smart, but they caution that Beijing has little incentive to cooperate as it builds its own missile program, expands its influence in East Asia, and challenges the U.S. as the world's leading superpower. True. In other words, China's just building up. They really have no interest in slowing down because they need to, well, because we're ahead of them. Okay? They need to catch up. So they didn't want to agree to anything because it's like, well, hey, we just kind of got in on this, and we want to be a superpower also. And in order to be a superpower, you got to have nuclear missiles. Well, just the way it is. I know it's unfortunate, but it's true. So I'm not sure how quick China's going to be looking to jump out of this, to jump on board and actually do some kind of a. Oh, good, you did get a notification. Okay, excellent, very good. But well, good, excellent. So, but yeah, I mean, again, I don't see China wanting to start cutting back when they're just now ramping up. They got the money to do it. I mean, they do spend a lot of money on military. Again, our GDP and debt. Our debt is 100% of our GDP. 20 trillion debt, 20 trillion approximate GDP, gross domestic product. The Chinese debt to their GDP is actually 150%. Their debt is 150% of their GDP. So they're actually in worse shape than we are. We got a phone call coming in. Mr. Douchebag, you're on the phone with Carl's Opinion.
Hey, Carl, how you doing? How's everything?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Good. What's up? Boy, I got up the notifications, but I wonder if anybody else got them. Because I got a notice saying that you were doing a live show Thursday, Political Roundup, but it wasn't. It was in my feed, but I didn't know if anybody else got it or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Some nights I get a lot of viewers, some nights I don't. It all kind of depends on, I have no idea. I don't know how YouTube does that. I don't know how they don't do it. I mean, I've been picking up subs, so I don't know. If you pick up a few subs here and there, maybe YouTube wants to, I wear this hat, the Make America Great Again hat. Oh, I just got a new hat too. Yeah, I just got a new hat. I should have it by tomorrow. It's the Trump 2020 hat.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What's funny? It seems like YouTube. I mean, everybody's talking about the algorithms and censoring, but I think YouTube's actually getting a little bit better. They're not as I've always noticed that YouTube isn't as they're not as I don't use Twitter or Facebook, but it seems like they're not as bad as Twitter and Facebook are about banning people off their platforms.
Well,
At least not in the
yeah. I mean, they're not as bad. It's just they just kind of do it more. They do it more quietly. They'll shadow ban you. They'll take stuff out. They won't put. I mean, if I'm a conservative, obviously, and I got this Trump hat on, and obviously that would tell people like, hey, if I'm into Trump and I'm into the America with the American flag, and I want conservative
yeah.
news, then
Mm-hmm.
this is someplace I want to go. But obviously, it again, my number of people that come to the live streams vary from night to night. I have no idea why. I don't know. A lot of times if I do it
Yeah.
earlier at night, like right now it's like midnight on the East Coast. If I do it earlier in the evening, then I notice I get a lot more people than if I do it later. It's just
Yeah.
I have a full-time gig, that whole attorney thing, so.
Yeah.
Had a preliminary hearing today, had a lot of court, had people back when I got back to the office, and then by the time I get home, get dinner ready and everything, by the time I get everything done and ready to go, sometimes it's later at night. Weekends I can generally come on a little bit earlier, or even like Friday
Yeah.
night sometimes I come on a little bit earlier, but but for the
Yeah.
most part,
No, usually it looks like your channel's growing a little bit, and Axe's channel's it's getting like 200 people in the chat. I mean, that's good. People
Right.
are curious. People are, it's a good thing. It's like right now, we know the trolls are listening, and that's fine. Maybe they'll learn something. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they'll learn, or pick up on a clue that, they're being played by the Democrat Party.
Well,
The establishment, really.
the one nice thing about that CBS poll after Trump's State of the Union address, the number I liked the best and the number I was looking for was the number of independents who liked the speech, and it was like something like 88% of independents. It was some crazy number. It was because right with the mainstream media try to flip it when they show the thing at 75% approval. Oh, mainstream. Oh, a lot of Republicans are watching. Well, no, a lot of people who self-identify as independents were watching. Well, first of all, everybody was watching that State of the Union because I don't give a shit if you were left, right, liberal, conservative, middle, whatever. Everybody thought he was going to say something crazy. So everybody was tuned in. I guarantee the ratings, MSNBC was showing it, CNN was showing it. I guarantee you their ratings that night were through the roof when they were showing it live.
Of course.
Yeah. So
of course, CNN is probably going to have an edited version of it. We all know that.
I mean when they were actually showing it live, I guarantee you they
did show it live.
I guarantee you their ratings were through the roof on when they were showing it live, meaning that Republicans weren't tuning into MSNBC or CNN to watch the State of the Union. If they were watching it live, they were watching it off of Fox, or a lot of us, of course, we were watching it off of YouTube. A lot. There were probably 20 sites that I know of that were doing carrying the State of the Union live, off the White House website, which is what the White House website wants you to do.
Mark Dice was doing it.
Mark Dice was doing it. Anthony Brian Logan was doing it. I think United America was doing it. Will's site. I mean, a lot of people were doing it. So, I mean, of course, and that's why the White House wants you to do that too. The White House wants you to put, because it's like the way I got it when somebody said, "Gee, I wish we could watch it here," and so I just hit Google, and Google had it right under their search. Their main search was like, "Hey, White House Live." Google is YouTube, kind of, and they right here. So you just boom, clicked it, and then. I mean, it was that easy. It was just a question of me getting the audio correct. And the same thing even with the response.
Yeah.
I had somebody said, "Oh, let's watch the response," and so I said, I bet that response is going to be in the same place if I go back to Google to look for it. And sure enough, there it was. It was in the same place that Democratic response. Boom, and that was off of actually that one was off of C-SPAN because obviously it wasn't on the White House feed, so C-SPAN carried that one. So, and of course C-SPAN wants you to cover their stuff because it says C-SPAN on it, and, you're covering it on your YouTube channel, so they're happy. So,
the whole thing about, and what's really interesting is that how the Democrats are now getting exposed for their ties to the KKK. Like, look at all those Democrats who are dressed in white, even Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was dressed in white, showing her support. And I'm like, could they be any more obvious, And what's interesting is that, just, somebody I was talking to is like, I guess he always considers himself like a progressive,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, why would they do that? And I said, you got a lot of things to research. But I didn't tell him like that in a disrespectful way. I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff, that, people don't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, the information's out there. Just a lot of people don't read. Most people, it's funny, like, you have those that, like, there's many different kinds of people. And I'm sure you know this already. You have people who will read and research. You have people that understand what's going on but are too lazy to read, so they'll
Right.
look for like videos and people to explain it to them, like Derek Grayson, things like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then you have those that are starting to understand what's going on but don't have the wisdom to grasp, the talking points and everything. And then there's people that they're looking for answers, but they have the intelligence to grasp the knowledge that's being told to them, and see, they have the ability to see how things are, worded to them and understand, you know what I mean? Because,
Right.
when sometimes I've seen like some, like, when people are like, I saw a video with Charlie Kirk one time where this guy, first he tries to pass himself off as a libertarian, but this guy couldn't be more leftist, left. He was so obviously, he was like trying, well, I'm a libertarian, yada, yada. But I think Charlie Kirk saw through his BS. And then Charlie Kirk asked him, well, what prevents you from doing what the Amish do? Get off the grid and live, right?
Right.
And basic, oh, I don't know if you saw that video?
Yeah.
And then the guy, and then in front of everybody, he calls Charlie Kirk an a-hole. And because he knew that Charlie Kirk was mopping the floor with him, with facts,
Right.
know.
Well, yeah.
But,
Generally,
but
you're winning an argument when the other side, the only thing they can do is like call you a name. You know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then because they can't compete with you on ideas, they can't compete with you the facts, and so they have to start name calling, and that's when it's like when Candace Owens was debating Michael Eric Dyson, and because she said, Jay, you're just using a lot of like $10 words, but you're not saying anything, and then he called he called her a little girl and stuff like that,
oh yeah,
because
yeah,
right away he got very defensive because she called him out on, and I know she had that one in the can. I know she was going to use that one. She was waiting for him to use a lot of big words and not say anything, and so she had that one in the can where you're using a lot of $10 words and you're not saying anything. And then of course, I'm sure he's heard that criticism before, and he got really pissed off. But I mean, I'm sure nobody's ever said that to him directly. But I'm sure he's heard people say that about him. But here's this person on live TV actually telling him, you use a lot of words and no substance. Like
yeah,
I don't know how you teach it. Well, I know how he teaches at Georgetown. Why not? But
hmm
he shouldn't be teaching at Georgetown. He shouldn't be teaching at a community college. I mean, anybody can string together a
yeah,
bunch of fancy words and not make any sense. I mean, I could sit here and do that right
yeah.
now. I mean, hell, just listen to rap
Well, it's like,
music. You listen to
mhm.
rap music; they do it all day long, and they make millions. They string a bunch of
Oh
words
yeah,
together that don't
oh
make
yeah,
any sense, have no meaning, and then say, "Hey." So I guess all
yeah,
Dyson needs is a little like table, regular record player, and just kind of like scratch the album a couple of times, and he'd be perfect.
yeah.
You know.
Well, when you look at rap music compared to what it was 20, 30 years ago, like when I was in high school, I mean, the words, they actually had like a bit of a story to it. It wasn't about, well, this is where I'm going to hook up with this person. You know what I mean? It
Right.
was more. I mean, I like old school rap. Like from way back in the day. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
today's rap is I don't. I guess I don't understand it. I mean, nothing against it. I mean, I respect
Well,
any music
it's
artist
all
who
about.
is able to.
Yeah, it's all. I mean, it's all about. It's not about. It's nothing uplifting. It's nothing
Hmm.
like, gee, you listen to that,
Yeah,
you feel good. It's songs about dealing drugs, which is killing people. It's
yeah,
songs about killing people straight up. Grabbing a
yeah.
gun and shooting people. It's
Hmm.
songs about degrading women. Hey, my bitches and my whores. My bitches and my
Yeah,
hoes. I mean, that's just totally degrading to women. And then they say, "Gee, women don't respect us." Well, you're not showing any respect for them. You know, it's a two-way street. If you want somebody to respect you, you got to respect them first. And if you're
Yeah,
singing songs, totally degrading them and pretty much telling them they're just a piece of ass and they're nothing else, well,
yeah,
I mean, none of those songs are uplifting. I mean, and unfortunately, a lot
yeah.
of kids, listen to this stuff, and they use that as their role model, and they use that as how they should live their lives, and it's a real shame because
Yeah.
they're just a whole generation is going down the toilet fast.
Well, it's like it's interesting. If you ever saw, I saw it years ago. If you ever saw the movie Josie and the Pussycats, I used to back in the day. I was a big fan of like who was in that movie? Rachel Lee Cook and I don't know if you ever heard of that movie. Now it was done
No, well,
like
I
18,
heard
19
of
years
the
ago.
yeah, I heard of the movie. I just never watched it.
No, but the reason why I mentioned that movie is because the movie talks about how subliminal messages, like they put subliminal messages in the music, right?
Hmm.
And like they get, like, I mean that was the story, I mean they get them buying different things and all that, every week, and but in a way, if you stop and think about that, in a way, the premise of that story is a little true because like today, because it's like like the Kardashians, right? That they have their famous clothesline, and everybody a lot of young girls want to be like a Kardashian. They want to be, they want to dress like that, look like that. It's like Jersey Shore. They had all these guys that, that wanted to be like, I don't even know those guys' names. I can't even think. Mikey was one of them, I think, and but all these guys they wanted to, you know, imitate that look. They wanted to be like that. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody watched these people, and everybody, well, they're living a good life and yada yada. Well, it's a scripted show.
Right.
I mean, I don't, and you used to hear stories about how. I mean, I don't know how they get along in real life. With each other. I don't, but
It creates unrealistic expectations.
yeah,
If you live your life and if you see a movie and go, oh yeah, that's real. Well, then it just creates a set of unrealistic expectations instead of like because life. I'm a big Jordan Peterson fan. He says life's a struggle. Life is rough.
yeah,
And
yeah,
again, the finish line is death. So I mean, there's not even anything to like. Hey, I'm racing for the finish line. Well, don't race too fast because at the end of it, you're dead. So it's like,
sure,
I think this generation, it's really sad. This generation just doesn't seem to think that it's a struggle. Again, people's feelings are way more important than facts. Your feelings
yeah,
was paramount. You got to make sure you don't go around hurting people's feelings. When you talk, even
yeah,
again when you talk to professionals. I mean, I'm talking like young attorneys. I'll talk to, uh, you know, nursing staff at hospitals. You talk to them. I mean, again, their feelings are paramount. Forget patient care. I mean, that kind of goes out the window pretty
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
It's all
It's
about
like me.
all about them.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, it's like me. When somebody tells me something, hey, if I'm doing something wrong, let me know about it. You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
can. I'm humble. I'm humble when somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
If somebody
if somebody's
doesn't like,
offering you constructive criticism, you need to pay attention. And
yeah,
of course,
yeah,
you always want to think you're doing everything right, but if you think you're doing everything right all the time, I guarantee you're doing nothing right. You know,
yeah,
so,
exactly, yeah. Because basically, being perfect is never trying it. That's what the definition of perfect is.
right.
If I've never done it, then I'm perfect at it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You know, I mean it's. But what else was crazy? Like when I was catching part of your with the abortion laws. Do you know Ashton Kutcher came out and said that I guess I sent out a tweet or something about being pro life, and I think he got some backlash from Twitter from it.
Oh,
And what's
really?
really interesting is I think so. Yeah, let me hold on a second. Let me go back and read it.
Yeah, take a
Let me get
look.
on
'Cause
my computer real quick. I'm sorry.
no, go right ahead, man.
Yeah, I got to get on my computer. I'm sorry. I got to take a look at it. But what's interesting is that it seems like some more of these Hollywood conservatives are starting to come out of the woodwork now. It's like
right.
who is it? Tim Allen. Tim Allen's very conservative,
Yeah.
and it's Roseanne is libertarian, I think. Um, she's libertarian, I believe. I think. Let me see. I'm trying to find it here. Let me hold on one second. I'm trying to see if I can find it.
No, man. Yeah. Just.
Oh, this thing is slow. Aspen Kutcher. Oh, I'm finding it.
According to
let me see. Let me see. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, abortion, but this was Yahoo Finance when I'm reading this. Abortion opponents think Ashton Kutcher posting this video about Down syndrome means he stands with them. And then Ashton Kutcher shares powerful pro-life video with, let me see, with 17, let's see, I've got it. I know you do the news mostly. I just don't want to get my facts mixed up.
Go ahead, yeah.
Ashton Kutcher shares powerful pro-life video with 17 million followers, is winning applause from the pro-life community for sharing powerful video about Down syndrome on his Facebook page, although it remains unclear where he himself lands on the hot issue of abortion. And I think it says, I am a man with Down syndrome. Okay, no, this is the guy, I don't know if you saw that video with Frank Stevens, I think his name was.
No.
The man with Down syndrome, and his video went viral.
No, I sure didn't.
I guess, yeah, I think that's his name. I'm not sure. I'm a little behind on the news. I've been working all this week, and I haven't had a chance to catch up on any news. But he said, "I'm a man with Down syndrome, and my life is worth living." Stevens says, okay, so it was Stevens who said this, and then he says that some people say that parental screenings will identify Down syndrome in the womb, and those pregnancies will be just terminated. It is hard for me to sit here and say those words. I completely understand the people pushing this particular final solution are saying that people like me should not exist, which is pretty much, those are Democrat talking points right there. They just don't come out and say it.
Right. Well, actually, they did say it in New York. They said, and that one lady in Virginia was saying, well, if a kid is born with birth defects, the kid's going to be born with birth defects or has some kind of a disability, going in. And then, the parents at that point can say, oh, we're going to take it out. Well, you can remember something. The Nazis, the first people they took out when they were doing their extermination were the handicapped, the mentally handicapped, the physically deformed. Those were the first people they started taking out. Those are the ones they were testing out the trucks, having the exhaust pipes, fed back into the cabin, the back cabin area of the truck, and gassing those people that way. And but those are the first ones they locked up. If you were mentally or killed, mentally ill or physically deformed. And there was a lot of talk. Dinesh D'Souza covered this in his movie that the Nazis were very much in touch with the progressives in the United States who were of the same opinion, was that they wanted to abort primarily they wanted to abort black people, but they also wanted to abort people who were like mentally handicapped or physically deformed. Or had a mentally handicapped gene. They figured if they gave the women who gave birth to a baby would also be mentally handicapped or physically deformed in some way. And those are the people they want to take out, and until when we went to war with Nazi Germany, these people were all like very much pro-Hitler. I mean, Time magazine, I think it was 1936, had Hitler as Man of the Year. I mean, they were the New York Times and all those people were big fans of Benito Mussolini, saying, "Yeah, that's it," because Benito Mussolini was a progressive. He was, that's where that was his side of the table. He wasn't a right winger; he was a progressive, and so they were all like, "Yeah, this is the way to do it: government control, central control, get rid of the undesirables, and the hell with free markets, the hell with." Individual liberty. It was all about the collective.
Yeah.
It was about one group, our country together, no individual rights, just one collective thought. We all think the same way.
Yeah. Where the right takes a lot of the heat from, this is just my personal opinion, but, where the right takes a lot of the heat from is from like when they, it's cool to it's cool if you disagree, but, like when you have these some of these politicians who come in and they pass laws saying, well, you can't marry somebody that you fall in love with. You know what I'm saying? And like, and that, like let's say you can't open an adult store, in this location of town. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, that's one of the things that the left uses against the right. But the right does. I'm not trying to like bash anybody, Carl, but the right does have a history of, or the far right, I should say, the far right does have kind of a history of like preventing same-sex marriages, and the left will use that to garner votes from the LGBT. Well, these people are against you, yada yada. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah. I
In
mean,
reality,
yeah. I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, because in reality, and like what we were talking about last time, how, many classical liberals have found their fight on the conservative side because of the ideas of open borders and socialism and all this far left radical ideology. Most of your modern Democrats have now found their fight on a conservative side. And I think over time, it's reshaping the right to be more accepting of the LGBT community. To understand that, they're people like us, and, they why can't someone be with who they want to be with? You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean,
Well, yeah, the problem is, it's like, the arguments back, and I was part of that anti, same-sex marriage crowd back in the 80s and the 90s, is what we said back then was that, hey, look, it's going to be a slippery, it's kind of weird, a slippery slope, if you will. Because once you open that up, they're going to want more and more and more, and of course the left was saying, "Oh no, just give us same-sex marriage, and then we'll stop." And well, they haven't, as you can see. Now you have people who want to identify as a woman, women who want to identify as a man, we said once you open the floodgates on that, it's going to go down the road. Now, I do agree in principle with same-sex marriage. I think people, if you fall in love with somebody, regardless of their gender, you should be allowed to get married to them, pure and simple.
Yeah, exactly.
But then full stop.
But the changing of I'm sorry, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then full stop.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Don't. The problem is what the transgender community has done is they've hijacked the gay agenda, and they try to piggyback on that, and then use the gay agenda saying, okay, since you've given gay rights, now we want to give, Voltron's like, yeah, lube jokes, no kidding. That now we want to give, I know, all these analogies and metaphors, they're all like, oh shit, they're all like right there. But they try to bootstrap onto the gay community and use their arguments for like equal rights and stuff, saying, oh, we should have equal rights now too. And a lot of people in the gay community are like, "Hey, wait, whoa, first of all, we're talking about rights for gay people. We were talking about like if you have some kind of mental illness where you think you're a woman or you think you're a man, when biology says you're just the opposite. It's like because transgender is not about sexual preference; it's about sexual identity. Well, your identity is determined by biology. The left bashes. Those of us who say, "Oh, well, climate change isn't caused by man," they say, "Oh, you're science deniers." Well, I mean, they're denying biology. That's the most basic science. I mean, that's actually when you're in high school, if you remember correctly, you take your physical science first, then you take your biology, then it gets into the chemistry and everything else. But the biology is like one of the most basic sciences out there, and they've just gone ahead and denied it all completely. There is no such thing as an XX or an XY chromosome. It's like an XYZ chromosome now, I guess. But but Voltron, sorry about the lube jokes and stuff. It's just the metaphors just come out, and unfortunately, they fit right into that. So there you go.
It's like that GameStop, that whole incident with GameStop, where that what was it? Was it GameStop or was it some other place where the guy, the employee misgendered the individual?
The guy looked like he was like 6'4", 240, and he calls him sir. And it's like, well, no, I'm a woman. It's like, well, shit. I mean, that's one hell of a big woman there. I mean, give the guy. I mean, you're gonna get mad at a clerk working at a store. I mean, some kid who's maybe I don't know 20, 21, maybe right out of high school working at a minimum wage job, and he's supposed to be so like enlightened, which I don't think you're enlightened if you have to think that. I think he has to be. He's not as enlightened as you are, and you're gonna get mad at him. Yeah, She-Hulk. Yeah, totally agree. Voltron, She-Hulk for sure. But yeah, I mean.
Well, the other thing. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I do. I was just going to say, like, and not to mention that targeted harassment out in Colorado with those cake bakers. Oh, in Arizona, those two poor women who, they were forced to attend some kind of, they made greeting cards, I think, and they were forced to attend some kind of wedding or something that went against their religious beliefs, I believe. I forget. It was a story that was released a while, not too long ago. But and we all know that these are, they're paid to go in there and harass these people. I mean, they want, basically they're just trying to they want people to have their rights violated. I mean, if somebody should be allowed to do what they want to do with their business. If they don't want to cater to somebody, that's their business. It's also their loss of money, but it's also their business if they choose not to, and they should have that right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at the First Amendment, and I got it right here, it says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Okay, I mean it's in other words, if you want to exercise your religion, and your religion says it's against your religion to have to make a cake for a same-sex couple. Well, the government can't make a law prohibiting you from exercising your religion freely, and if it's totally antithetical to your religion to have to do something like that, then the government shouldn't come in and do anything opposite.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because it's like, what was the other one too? There was what was it? There was that vapor shop guy. It's like now they want. No, it was California. They were trying to ban MAGA hats in restaurants and things. And people can't wear any kind of apparel that shows support for Trump. And I'm like, well, it's a good way to lose business quick.
Well, yeah, I mean, right? I mean, it's a private establishment. So I mean, but I mean, can you ban political speech in a private establishment? Probably, but I mean, at the same point in time, if you can do that, then you shouldn't force a business to do business with someone. Have to make something that's antithetical to the religion. And the religion says, hey, we're against this, and yet now we have to make a cake, and if you don't make the cake, you get fined until you're fined out of existence. You can have your business license taken away from you, and suddenly you either get two choices: either go along, file a lawsuit, hopefully you get to the Supreme Court in a couple of years. In the meantime, your business gone down the toilet, and of course everybody's out there defaming you left, right, and sideways on social media. You're getting negative reviews on your restaurant. People have never been there, and it's just turned into a big freaking mess. But I mean, people need to remember that it's not so much freedom of religion. It's like freedom. It's freedom from government to establish a religion or to prohibit your free exercise of your religion. And if again we don't make the Amish do certain things, like we don't tell the Amish you have to drive a car. You're not allowed to use a horse and buggy. We don't tell the Amish you have to have electricity. We don't mandate the Amish to have because the religious belief says no, we don't want electricity. So we don't mandate them to do that, and I mean we did. I think then people would really say, "Oh, this is really messed up." Like it's like, and you can find a legitimate government purpose for doing it. It's like, well, we want people to have electricity for their safety and for their health, and things of that sort. And like they use gas lamps, and it burned down a house last week, and so we got to get them. They have to get wired up for electricity, that kind of thing.
A liberal now, if like let's say like in Pennsylvania where the Amish have a huge presence, if Pennsylvania, let's say like the Supreme Courts in Pennsylvania become overwhelming. I don't know if they're overwhelmingly liberal or not. I mean, I'm not sure, but I think Pennsylvania is a pretty liberal area. But if it gets taken over by the liberals completely, they can force the Amish to do what they want them to do. I don't think the Amish would, because I would think most of the Amish would have to lean a lot more conservative to keep their way of life going, as opposed to, because I know like when I've been out there, I've seen them, they have their cell phones, that's Mennonite, I believe, a lot of them are Mennonite because they use they use technology in their business, and I just don't think they have technology in their home. I could be wrong on that. I don't know much about the Amish culture, but I do know that a lot of them, they use their phones like we do. They have their phone. I'm sorry, their computers, day to day, for the functioning of their businesses. But let's say if Pennsylvania gets completely overrun by liberal activist judges, liberal mayors, and a liberal governor. I think they do have a liberal governor now. I'm not sure, but that could all be taken away from the Amish real quick.
Well, I
You
mean,
know,
I
they
mean,
could,
I
they could,
mean, I mean, it could, yeah. I mean, it could be. I mean, I just think, I mean, the Amish probably, won't have to. I mean, I could see it happening when they say, "Hey, look, these people are backwards, and we're allowing them to follow these customs inside of our
mhm,
country, and we don't want it
mhm.
anymore." And sorry, you got to start doing it the way the rest of us do, and find some legitimate government purpose, to quash their freedom of religious expression. So I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, you have to find it has to be generally if you're going to infringe on like on a First Amendment right, you generally have to show some. It's not legitimate government purpose. I can't remember the phrase. It's almost
well, they're trying to do it. Yeah,
like some
hmm
kind of a public purpose or something. I can't remember. I had to research that years ago for something else, but I can't remember what the exact phrase, the exact words are on that. But I mean, that's the whole thing, though. I mean, it seems like with the city or the county and that bakery shop thing. I mean, look, it's real simple. If they don't want to produce those kind of products, well, then people are free to go someplace else, and they will lose business. If you're not open to all your customers, you will lose business. I mean,
yeah,
you just
yeah,
will. Years ago, when again, I think two gay people should get married if they want to. But my argument was, hey, look, if this happens, then it's gonna lead to all these other things, and we got to make sure when we do this that if you do it right, well, we didn't do it right, obviously. But anyway, so I
yeah,
remember years ago, like in California, they were allowing for domestic partnerships in the civil courts, and there was talk about doing it here in Nevada. And in Nevada, I was like, yeah, because just think about it from a divorce attorney point of view. It's like, hey, these people generally don't have kids; they have lots of disposable income, and they're going to get divorced just as much as heterosexuals are going to get divorced. It'll be great business for attorneys. It's kind of being a little
yeah,
cynical,
hmm
but
yeah.
so. But I mean, it's just one of those things where the pendulum always seems to swing. It swings real far one way, and then there's always pushback. It was like when Trump was coming down on them for socialism and stuff like that. You know,
Oh, I loved it. Bernie, I love.
uh,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I loved Bernie Sanders' face. He looked like one of those, those Muppets. The Muppets and
oh,
the
the
two
the two old
grandpas,
guys, the two old
yeah.
guys in the theater. Yeah,
He looked like he looked like
yeah.
one of them. And then Cortez. That was funny because you got to you could tell right away that Trump probably directed them to show the faces of the Democrats when he. Right when he gave his talking points about socialism,
Oh,
that was like
yeah.
their cue to show all the.
Well,
I
he
loved
was
it.
looking right over there towards in Cortez's direction when he was saying, like,
Yeah,
I can't believe some people are advocating for
Couch is such an
socialism.
idiot.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, I mean, again, she went to Boston College, and she went to Boston College, and she majored in economics. And she's I don't know who else teaching her class, and she probably got
yeah,
A's. She probably just wrote all this socialist nonsense, this dribble. And again, these people need. They weren't around back in '89 when the wall came down. See, these people,
yeah.
if they're around, they were kids. When that wall came down, all those
hmm
people were celebrating, standing on top of that wall, and all the people in Eastern Europe, Hungary and formerly Czechoslovakia, Poland and Romania and
Yeah,
Bulgaria. I mean, these people were just ecstatic, and they were just in East Germany, and they were ecstatic for a reason. They were ecstatic because they were
yeah,
getting rid of this centralized socialist, you know, communist-controlled government that was holding them back. They couldn't be creative. They couldn't speak out. They couldn't speak their mind.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so, and these kids don't realize if these people were celebrating so much, they weren't celebrating because socialism was here. They were celebrating because they were getting rid of socialism and getting rid of communism. And these were millions of people who are
yeah,
now, and a lot of those people on those walls were kids who were like these kids' age now. It's just that it happened to be, oh, shit, 30 years ago. So like these
yeah,
kids 30 years ago are like my age now. They're, 55, 50, I'm 53. They're like in their 50s and 60s. And so now these older people, like in Europe and even in this country, who we remember what communism did to all these people and all the tens of thousands, millions of people, tens of millions of people it killed. We remember that, and these young kids are like, "Oh, we don't remember any of that." And of course, they don't teach them that history anymore.
Well, they don't teach. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
they learn it. The only thing they learn in history class is how America's bad, how we stole everything from everybody else, and we suck. And we can't.
yeah,
We have this. Our beginning was formation and through the patriarchy, through stealing Indian lands, through slavery, and that's a sin we can never overcome, and we just have to go away. And the sooner the better.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that's what they're
yeah,
learning in school right now. You
yeah.
know.
Well, it's like how it's interesting because it's like how I was like with the education system and all that. It's like like how I remember like last week we were talking about the Bilderberg group. It's like it's almost like you got two factions. One, worldwide, like one that favors capitalism and nations to be sovereign, and then obviously the other who want the new world government. But you have people and people who don't understand that. What was it? People who don't attend these town meetings and you know how do I say this? I'm sorry. I'm trying to. I'm getting ahead of myself here. I do apologize. Like sometimes, what is it? You have people, like who want to teach proper history, and they try to get the schools to, you know, give the proper talking points, give the proper education, and then you have the left who have basically forced all those out and brought in their narrative of history. It's like some people, the history of the NRA. Some people think that the history of the NRA was to, suppress black people. Other people know that the NRA was created to help black people, defend themselves.
Yeah.
Little, but again, it's like I said, it's like you've got two. Because it's like Malcolm X said. Malcolm X laid it out perfectly and beautifully. The battle between liberal and conservative kings. The only difference is the liberal king is more deceitful, more cunning, poses as a friend to the minorities. But the liberal will, their motives are that they have ulterior motives, but they use the method. Both sides use similar methods, except one side is a little bit more honest about what they want to do as opposed to the other side.
Well, yeah, generally conservatives. I mean, we wear it on our sleeve. We say what we mean what we say. Liberals, you always got to they talk in code. You always got to figure out what the hell they're saying. I mean, it's like, well, what do you really mean? Whereas conservatives, conservatives always been like, we judge the individual. We don't give a shit about your race.
Yeah.
We don't give a shit about your religion. We don't give a shit about really anything except for, are you a good person? Do you do good things? Do you work hard? Are you a good family man? Do you take care of your family? Do you take care of your neighbors? And hence, do you take care of your country? Are you good stewards for your country? Good stewards for your neighborhood? Good stewards for your family? That's what we always come down on, and we don't give a shit. Hell, we don't care if you don't even speak the language that good, just as long as you're a good person and you take care of your family. And we've always been like that, and we've always been very accepting. You see, right, with the Young Black Leadership Summit, I mean, Republicans are just like holding our hand out, say, "Hey, come on over." And and hopefully a lot of black people have come on over, but a lot of black people are still stuck in that rut, thinking, "Can we trust these people?" Well, can you trust? You can't trust the liberals. I mean, you got a 50-year track record with these people, and they've done nothing but screw you over, make you very dependent upon the government. Hampered you, tells you that you're a bunch of children that we have to take care of, and don't have any respect for you whatsoever. And then you see like what's going on now with like all these liberals coming out saying, "Oh yeah, I wore blackface, I wore blackface, I wore black." It's like, well, yeah. I mean, liberals, like they haven't changed. I mean, they're the same people they always were.
Oh, they're good. They're going to destroy. What's funny? The Democrats are going to run campaigns against each other, and they're going to destroy each other. But like I said before, it's Beto O'Rourke who's going to run against Trump. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to jump around again. I do apologize.
No,
but it's like right now, the Democrats are facing, even from their own, they're starting, like, hey, what the heck is this going on? And now there was some other guy who was caught in a KKK photo. I forget his name, but and the fact that Ralph Northam refuses to resign is just making things harder for the Democrats. But you got Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, virtue signaling, he's got to go, he's got to go, he's got to go. They don't fool. They may have the average progressives fool, but they don't fool the, they don't fool the same, the center right to the conservative. You know what I mean?
Well, actually,
They don't.
that's one thing I liked about that poll, that CBS poll. Again, it was CBS poll. It wasn't a Fox News poll. They showed 88% of independents approved of the State of the Union address. I mean, that's a big number.
Mhm.
80. I mean, you get 88% support of independents. That's crazy serious. I mean, there's your election right
Yeah.
there. I mean, you get 98% of Republicans, 97% of Republicans saying, "Yeah, we loved it." 88% of independents, and then well, hell, even 30% of Democrats like the speech. I mean, that's a pretty big number.
Yeah.
30% of Democrats. So I
Yeah, they're
mean,
probably the more moderate centrist Democrats.
yeah, I mean,
I mean, I would guess.
yeah, I mean, it was really hard to argue with anything that was in that speech. I mean, what he was talking about as far as one, we're a capitalist country, we believe in freedom, and we don't. And the thing I liked about when he talked about socialism, which is just that, like, he didn't just say, well, socialism sucks because look, their economy is in tatters. What he said was,
Yeah.
he goes, we don't agree with like a government. I can't remember the exact quote, but like a government that's in control and that's corrupt, that's holding down. Holding people
Mhm.
down and being really using coercion and force. We don't believe in that
Mhm.
kind of a
Yeah.
government. And so he said that's when you have socialism, and he was kind of heading in this direction. He was saying, look, you have to have a few people. Socialism requires centralized planning, which means, well, who are the centralized
Yeah.
planners? And these people, I mean, these people, they have to coerce people to do what because you have to get rid of the incentive basis that people operate
Yeah.
on in life. You have to say, if you want something, you can't, no, you can't have that. You have to have this. So you have to coerce people
Yeah.
to not use their own feelings and their own interests, kind of the way the market works. And that requires a
Yeah.
lot of coercion on part of the government, where they say we're not holding elections, where they clamp down on freedom of the press, where they clamp down on any kind of political dissent, they arrest people. They have to do that to survive. A socialist country cannot operate with free markets and with freedom of thought, freedom of expression, or free press. It just ain't going to happen. So
Yeah.
I like how he went on that. Oh, what does Voltron say here? Hold on. Joy Behar went blackface at a Halloween party. They showed the photo on The View and just laughed it off. Yeah, I saw that. I can't remember whose side I was on, but yeah, in 2006, she was on The View and she showed when she was in college, she did a blackface thing.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's why we noticed they're not really coming down on it too hard on The View because, well,
Mhm.
first of all, Whoopi Goldberg's ex-boyfriend, Ted Danson, he did it too. I can't remember which video that was, Voltron, I was watching, but I watched it where, I think it was Tucker. I think Tucker Carlson was showing that tonight, actually, and
Mhm.
all the liberals that have wore blackface in the past, Jimmy Kimmel and his girlfriend Sarah Silverman. I mean,
Yeah.
all these liberals have done this, and it's like, it. I guess it was funny for them, but then if anybody else does it, it's not. And then actually, they all did it. Then none of them got fired. But then Megyn Kelly gets fired, but she walked away with a shitload of
Megyn
money.
Kelly was such a turncoat.
Yeah.
I remember her interviews with David Clark. I remember her interviews with Sheriff David Clark, and she was, oh, I'm trying to play to the conservative base, and then she just did like a 360 turn and became, a champion of liberal, tried to be a champion of liberal causes. I don't think it worked out too well for her. Kind of sad because it seemed like she was a really good reporter for Fox News. I don't know what happened with her.
Well, no. She had a big sexual harassment case against who's the guy who ran Fox News? The guy that died. I can't remember.
Oh, Rupert Murdoch.
No, the guy that actually ran the Fox News part of Murdoch's
Oh.
empire. The guy who died, the famous guy who started the whole thing and turned it into like the biggest cable news company out there. Well, he was sexually harassing her. I mean, the guy had grabby hands with a lot of the women there, and he hired a lot of hot-looking women. I mean, remember MSNBC and CNN used to make fun of Fox for all the hot-looking women they had on there. Well, this guy hired them. They've always had the hot-looking women there, and so maybe he was hiring them just so he'd have a chance to make a move on them. Well, and she ran,
Yeah.
she got into it, with the Fox News and the sexual harassment thing, and then of course, hell, I mean, shit, what was it? Where'd she go to? ABC. Was it no NBC?
Yeah.
NBC offers her $20 million a year or 22 million a year or whatever the hell the number was. Well, I mean, hey, she's like, well, okay, I'll do that. But it's
Yeah.
as far as I mean, the money, great, and she got to keep a lot of it. Her attorney pretty much said, look, we want to you want to go to court on that. See you later. No, not Ted Turner.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who started Fox. What the hell was his name? God damn it. It's my
Rupert
bad.
Murdoch.
No, Fox News. The guy who ran Fox News. The guy
Oh, Fox News. Oh,
the
oh,
guy
oh.
who put the whole thing together. And he died just recently. And I can't remember the damn
But he
name
was
either.
conservative, I think, wasn't he?
He was,
He was a
but
conservative.
well, he was conservative, but he liked to grab women, and he liked to have, I mean, just because you're conservative doesn't mean we're dead. I mean, like what the hell was? If
I can't think. Wait, let me see if I can find it.
if somebody Googled it, like founder of Fox News, because he's the genius that put the whole thing together. But he also he liked a lot of the ladies, and he liked them a lot, and so that's what Megyn Kelly got caught up in over there. And I think they might have settled with her, if I'm not mistaken. But then she got that offer from NBC because her ratings while she was on Fox were through the roof. I used to watch her every night, and in fact, some nights she actually did better ratings than Bill O'Reilly. On a consistent basis. But I mean that line, Roger Ailes. Thank you, Mr. Voltron. Roger Ailes. Yes, yes. Anyway, yeah, she had a
Yeah.
she had a sexual harassment deal with him. Hold on, let me get this in here.
Rupert Murdoch, he's an interesting one because it's strange because I think he's a bit of a globalist, but he's also a good friend of Donald Trump's. And it's like, I guess he kind of lets Fox, be the cheerleader for Trump, but then Fox has always been more right leaning than,
well,
because I remember, I was going to say, because I remember Sean Hannity, blasting Obama on certain things, throughout the Obama years. That's kind of where I don't really agree with. I mean, I agree, Derek Grayson, like when he was saying how Fox News is part of the established liberal media, well, I think it just depends on what host they have on there. Like Sean Hannity's a known Trump supporter, so is Janine Pirro, so is Laura Ingraham. But Tucker, I guess Tucker would be. I mean, but I just that's just kind of where I just don't see. I mean, I understand what Derek Grayson was saying about it. Like he was saying like because there has to be opposition to what the left is doing. And I guess I can see where Fox News kind of might fit that narrative, but I just don't agree completely that Fox News is, this complete liberal news station. Like, I mean, certainly not like CNN or CBS.
Well, but it is establishment, and it won't cover certain issues. Like it didn't really cover that English guy that got arrested and with
Tommy Robinson. Yeah, that was all over YouTube.
Yeah, it was all over YouTube,
But,
and the only person who had him on was Tucker Carlson had him on, and Tommy announced it on his YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm going to be on Tucker. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to a really good interview. And then Tucker had him on for 2 minutes. He had him on for 2 minutes or maybe 3 at most. And he goes, "Oh, well, thanks. I'm really sad that nobody's covering this." Well, hell, you didn't cover it. You just had the guy on for 2 to 3 minutes, and you cut him off. So, I mean, if it was that important to you, you could have. I mean, the guy was really excited about going on Tucker because he knew he was going to get a big American audience. And then Tucker just has him on for 2, maybe 3 minutes, and Robinson couldn't really explain anything, to him. I mean, they could have flown him out to D.C., put him in the studio and had him on for like good 15 minutes explaining everything that's going on in England, explaining everything going on with the grooming gangs. But they didn't want to cover that. Why? Because they're trying to get it. They're trying to get into Europe big time as well, and so they were told put the kibosh on it. And Tucker Carlson was told, okay, you can interview him, but you get 2-3 minutes, and that's it. So when he says they're part of the establishment, he's right because at the end of the day, it's a money making operation. And
that is true.
And Fox News America is only one part of that operation, and they don't want to screw anything else up. So they're kind of limited sometimes in what they do.
I think One American News, from what I understand, One American News, if you see some of the videos on YouTube, they're trolling liberal media big time. Like, especially like Liz Wheeler. God, she hits home with a lot of things. She's I don't know if you've ever seen her, giving talking points
Oh
and
no. We
like when
talked.
she does,
We talked about her last week. Yeah, I know. I've watched that every once in a
yeah.
while. I don't watch it a lot. I mean, I hate to say, but she doesn't seem very bright. So I'm sorry, man. She seems a little kind of
Mhm.
seems a little kind of two
No,
dimensional.
but I mean, like, but I think like One American News, I think they're growing more with the conservative base because, I mean, even though I don't think they're considered establishment media because they've only been around, I think, since 2013. But it seems like they've been reporting a lot more. I mean, they'll cover stories that mainstream media won't cover a lot of times. But they kind of give, they'll cover the caravan crisis. I'll tell you what, they've done that a few times. And it's like they kind of have an audience where it's like they'll look for the stories that don't get reported. Well, from what I've seen, I mean, I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, they look for the stories that mainstream media don't report on. But it seems like their base is kind of growing a little bit, and I know that Blaze TV has grown a lot too with Mark Levin, and I love Mark Levin. I love I don't get to see him a whole lot, but I do like his talking points and everything.
Yeah, no,
Dean Borelli, I wish.
no. Go ahead. No, I like Mark. Mark's a good guy.
Yeah, but but I mean, I was kind of sad that Michelle Malkin left. With Gavin McGinnis, I don't know what happened with him and Gavin McGinnis, but I don't know if Michelle Malkin left because of the marriage or if they just, but somebody else will pick her up because she's got such a huge following, and I've always loved watching Michelle Malkin. Like when she gives her commentary and everything. I mean, I remember back in the day, when she worked for Fox, she did a couple of she did like a video where she was blasting Al Sharpton because I think Sean Hannity went on what is that media show that Al Sharpton runs? He went there and some interview or something. It was a while ago. I vaguely remember it, but she was like going off on Al Sharpton.
No,
And I'm like,
I've always liked her. I tell you what, though, Mr. Douchebag. I tell you what, I want to jump to another story. I'm going to cover real quick. I want to cover the
oh yes,
review.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm
Yeah.
going to jump over to
Mhm.
the Washington Times, covering the reaction to the State of the Union. So I'm going to jump over on that right
Oh,
now.
sure,
Is
sure.
that okay?
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool.
All right,
I
man.
was good
Hey,
talking, Carl, and I always enjoy the conversation.
all right, man. Hey, yeah, totally enjoyed it, man. Totally cool. Yeah, anytime, man. Always call in.
Okay, all right, cool.
All
All
right,
right, I will see you back in the chat room.
all
All
right,
right, cool.
man. All right, bye bye.
All right, bye.
And of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great douchebag, douchebag, and hold on, let me get there. We go. Boom. Anyway, yeah, great phone call as usual. Great conversation, Mr. Douchebag there. But I did want to jump over to the Washington Times reporting on the State of the Union. So let's get over to that right now. Let me pull this zap here. There we go. And we'll just cut right on over. Boom. And just put me in here somewhere. Find me. There I am. Yay. Anyway, Trump's State of the Union speech pleases viewers and Republicans. But Schumer, and Democrats blast address as divisive on issues. I don't know how it was divisive. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. But whatever, that's it's Chuck Schumer. I mean, Chuck Schumer has a smirk on his face. They talk about that kid over there, with a smirk on his face with the Indian dude banging the drum in his face, but Schumer's smirk was far, more heinous than that smirk. And that kid's smirk was really heinous. That's one of those things where maybe women may not appreciate this, but, when you're younger and you get yourself in a situation where you think you might get your ass kicked and you don't know how to react, you'll smile. And I remember that when I was younger, you'll smile and try to you don't want to look scared because then you're afraid you're going to get your ass kicked. But you don't want to try to look tough because you're not tougher than the guys in front of you. So you kind of put this weird smile on your face, and that's what that kid's expression. Anybody who ever had to deal with that when you were like an adolescent or a teenager, will know exactly what I'm talking about. And this kid wasn't tough. I mean, he's an all-boys school. He didn't look like he was a big. It wasn't like he was like a big football player, dude. He benches 400 pounds or anything like that. It looked like typical kind of you know kid that does good in school, that makes good grades. That studies a lot. Probably doesn't work out a lot or anything like that. Wasn't a big dude. And he looked more nervous. But Schumer just looked heinous, looked evil in the smirk he was given. But let's see what the Washington Times has to say about this. And let's see. Judging by viewers' reaction to his State of the Union address, the smiling President Trump, who wants to approve paid family leave, rebuild infrastructure, and protect patients with pre-existing conditions, has a good chance of winning re-election in 2020. Interesting story. Instant polls taken by CBS and CNN after Tuesday night's speech found that Mr. Trump's call for bipartisan compromise on programs for the middle class struck pay dirt with voters. Damn, I like that. The CBS survey showed 76% of people who watched the speech approved of Mr. Trump's performance, including 82%. Oh, I'm sorry, I said 88 earlier. I meant it was actually 82. 82% of independents, and even 30% of Democrats. Among Republicans, it was 97%. I mean, 82% of independents. Again, this is CBS News. Okay, they hate Trump. Okay, like everybody talks about CNN. They don't talk about CNN because they're so unabashed about it. But trust me, if you don't believe me, watch the election night coverage on CBS from 2016. Trust me, it wasn't a love fest over there when they realized the president was winning and was going to win. It was just the opposite. I mean, some of the meltdown shows you can watch CBS Meltdown, and it's pretty sad. It's not as bad as MSNBC, but it's really close. Okay, so now let's see what CNN said. CNN poll found that 59% of viewers had a very positive reaction. Now this is CNN. Jesus, 59% had a very positive reaction, and then if you add into that the 17% who had a somewhat positive reaction. Well, hell, that's 66% right there. Either very positive or somewhat positive. That's positive from CNN poll. Oh, that's why Van Jones was going insane that night because I'm sure he saw he saw the poll numbers. Well, he was hoping the poll number would be just the opposite, and they showed him the poll numbers. He's like, oh, that asshole, that bastard, he sucks. And of course, the other guy on CNN saying, oh, I can't believe he didn't talk about climate change once. Whoa, what a terrible guy. It's like, what an idiot. But anyway, so between 59% and then you add another 17% of somewhat positive, that's 66% of CNN on their poll says had a positive reaction to Trump's speech. Conservative radio talk show host Rush Limbaugh said the reaction was the exact opposite of what the leftists in the media thought would happen. Exactly. They were covering this State of the Union, and they had all their panel out there ready to go, MSNBC, CNN, CBS, NBC. They were all covering it. They all had their panel ready to go because they figured, bam, the American people are going to see this. Trump's going to say something stupid. He's going to come across as mean and awful, and we're going to be right there to pounce on him with our panel discussion and take him down. And, for them, guess what? It didn't happen. Just the opposite reaction. Just the opposite, 180 degrees opposite of what the mainstream media thought was going to happen. So anyway, and they go on to give a little disclaimer about it's a snapshot poll, but still, I mean, it's a gut reaction. That's not bad. But anyway, let's see what the Washington Times has to say about that. While the surveys are only quick snapshots of voters' impressions, it's a significant change for a president whose job approval rating has been hovering around 40%. And then here comes, Senator Minority Chuck Schumer, of course. He's probably more pissed. He realized, look, he was sitting there. And the reason why he was smirking so much, because he knew the president was hitting that out of the park that night. He knew he was hitting it out of the park, and there was nothing he could do about it. He was up there. They agreed to have him there in the House. They knew he had national coverage, and he knew everybody was watching. Everybody was watching because they wanted to see what Pelosi was going to do behind him. The liberals were watching, the hopes that he was going to screw up, and they're going to, look at the idiot, look at the clown, look at the circus. What's he going to say? He's going to say something crazy. And of course, Trump hyped it up by saying, I think you're going to be in for a few surprises at the State of the Union. And of course, the media says, yeah, look, few surprises. Well, of course, the media wants the cover because their ratings are through the roof. The commercial time, I'm sure they were charging, was tremendous. I mean, obviously, there's no commercials in the middle of it, but you got commercial time before, commercial time afterwards. You got the lead-in shows that people are watching. The pre shows, kind of like we did here on Carl's Opinion. We had the little pre State of the Union, live call-in show, and but every media outlet was doing the same thing. They weren't doing a live call-in, and of course, they weren't doing as good as Carl's Opinion. Of course, their viewers weren't as good as the viewers of Carl's Opinion, because actually we had a pretty cool night that night. It was pretty nice, but so. Everybody was watching. So anybody that said, "Oh, it's just Republicans were watching," bullshit, bullshit. Everybody was watching this because everyone wanted to see what was going to happen. I guarantee. I haven't seen the numbers, but I guarantee the numbers are pretty good. Okay, let's see further what else the Washington Times has to say. Let's see. Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer compared Mr. Trump's delivery to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He had that talking point already set up. Reaching out to his audience on family-friendly issues such as drug pricing, but dividing viewers on immigration and abortion. Well, I mean, what he said about abortion was straight up. I mean, look, if you're in favor of abortion, you got to wake up and smell the reality of what actually happens. I mean, it's not just like a little procedure you go in for. Maybe it might be little for you. I don't know, but there's a baby in there that's getting killed, and it's getting killed in a pretty violent way. And I like what Trump did on the abortion issue, because this is a point I've been bringing up for years. Years ago, I was watching a documentary. I want to say it was like on the Discovery Channel. It was about when does life begin. It was a very apolitical, non-political discussion. And one of the things they looked at was, okay, when does I think they even called it a fetus, because again they're trying to be apolitical. When does this fetus feel pain? When does it first start to sense pain? And they were tracking they had all these great images and stuff, CAT scan images, whatever. But maybe not CAT scan, I don't know. Some kind of not resident imaging, whatever the hell it's called. I'm not a scientist. But anyway, imaging and stuff. And they were showing the development and the stages, really well done, computer models and stuff. And they came up to the fact that, this quote-unquote fetus, a.k.a. a baby, begins feeling pain around between 6 to 8 weeks. So 6 to 8 weeks, that baby's feeling pain. And so when Trump says, we want a law that protects the child when the child first starts to experience pain, that was spot on, because that's a great argument. I've been hoping somebody for years would have made that. I think I saw this documentary like 10, 12 years ago, and that's what I've been saying. It's like, okay, when does life begin? I mean, you can have that argument all day long. I mean, this, that, is okay. Is the brain this develops, the heart develops, is breathing, is not breathing, is the life, the whole 10 yards. But I think if you say, okay, when this quote-unquote fetus / baby / whatever begins to experience pain, that's when you cannot go in and chop it up with a scalpel inside of a little tube that goes up inside the woman's into her womb and slices this fetus, baby, whatever up. So let's see. Let me pull this up. Okay. So I mean I think that argument. I'm not sure how the Democrats can argue against that. It's like if science can determine, if science has determined when the nerve endings are out there, when information is being transmitted to the brain, and when the brain is able to receive that information and then transmit that information back to the extremities, because the whole idea of pain is to tell the extremities look out. So if you put your hand on a hot stove, the pain you feel is sending a message to your brain, and then that message from your brain is going back to your hand to say, move your hand off the stove. So that's a child feeling pain is a two-way street. Information going up and information going back. So when that child feels pain, and if that child is getting cut up, that child is probably trying to move extremities or whatever it has at the time, whatever appendages it has, formed at the time, trying to move away from it. And I think it's a great argument on the abortion debate. Again, I know a lot of true diehard anti-abortion people want to say, okay, life begins at conception, after conception, see you later, have a nice day. And this is the problem I have with that, is that, again, I know there's a God. And most miscarriages that happen within the first month of pregnancy. And they generally happen before the woman even knows she's pregnant. And so there's a life, if life begins at conception, then God is pretty cruel, because God is killing a life inside of you before you even knew you had one inside of you. If you get being able to say goodbye, you didn't even get to say hello. And I just don't think God's that cruel. I don't know. That's my opinion on it. Carl's opinion. There you go. I know some people will get mad at me for saying that. Some people will be like, yeah, or no, whatever. But that's how I feel about it. Because if most miscarriages for wanted pregnancies occur within the first month, when most women don't even know they're pregnant, even after they miscarry, they just think they had like a heavy flow, they had a heavy period, or the period was off by whatever. They're not even sure they were pregnant, so they didn't even forget being able to say goodbye to your baby. They didn't even get to say hello to it. And so I think using that when the child begins to experience pain, and I think if you frame that argument that way, it's really hard to refute it. If science says, okay, child feels pain in 6 weeks, okay, there's your number, and you can't have an abortion after 6 weeks, or say the number is 2 months or 1 month, whatever it is. And then you say, well, no, we want abortions past the child feeling pain. You got them talking your argument. You got them discussing your argument, okay? Because somehow, somebody's going to acknowledge this fetus feels pain at this certain time, whether it's 6 weeks or say it's 6 months, whatever it is. And after that, you cannot inflict pain on someone. And if you notice how Trump framed it also, he didn't ask for a constitutional amendment because, that's a loser discussion to have. And nobody really, Constitutional Amendment, Reagan always talked a good game about it. He was never jumping up and down about it. I was there, I remember. He appointed Sandra Day O'Connor to the bench, and that was what he gave to the evangelicals. But he never tried to push through a constitutional amendment through the House or the Senate. It would never pass anyway. The House and Senate were controlled by Democrats while Reagan was in office. So he knew that was a non-starter. He could say it, though, and, evangelicals would be like, yay, we're for you because you're for us. Knowing damn well Reagan, the politician that he was, it wasn't going anywhere. So what Trump says is like, I want you to pass a statute. Now that's something that can be done. And that puts a lot of stress on the Democrats because it's like, well, no, you don't need, what is it, 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate to pass it. You can do it with simple majorities. And if you say we're going to make it a non-filibuster issue, if there's 51 votes in the Senate, and that's whatever, 435 divided by 2, whatever that number is, I don't know, 435 plus, I don't know, divided by 2, I don't know, 268, 7.5, I don't know, something like that, whatever it is. But you understand what I'm saying. So they say, well, that's something you can actually achieve, because they say, oh, Constitutional Amendment, and plus, even if we pass it, get through 3/4 of the states, that'll never happen. Well, no, but here it says, hey, I want you to pass a law. Well, they can do that. They know how to pass laws. And so that really puts a big onus on them. It's like, yeah, why don't we pass a law? So maybe the Senate passes it first. Maybe they get through, saying after a child begins to experience pain, the certain committees in the Senate, of course, Republican controlled, so they have subpoena power. They can subpoena witnesses and scientists and stuff. And they say, okay, when they tell us, when does life begin? And they have all these discussions, and one scientist comes in and says 6 weeks. Another scientist comes in and says, 3 months. I mean, I'll say right now, it's not over 3 months, okay? It's definitely that first trimester, which is somewhat consistent with Roe versus Wade, right? So they say, well, it's definitely within the first trimester the child feels pain. So then you pass a law saying, okay, after the child feels pain, no abortion. And then what's the argument? Well, no. Well, maybe you just told us this entity, fetus, child, whatever, can feel pain, So 217.5. Okay, there you go. Hey, thanks. There you go. So thanks, Mr. Voltron. We appreciate that. But yeah, so that's something that can be done. And the argument is, oh no, after the child feels pain, we still want to be able to slice it up. Well, yeah, go sell that argument to the American people. You saw the American people's reaction from even liberals, to the reaction to the New York law, and not just the New York law, but how they were cheering for it, which I'm glad Trump brought that up. They were cheering. It's like, instead of saying, well, gee, this is something we have to do, we really don't like doing it. It's really a bad thing, but, we gotta have women, be independent and be free from the bonds of, having babies and raising kids so they can be independent in the workforce and start their own businesses. But, we really hate this whole abortion thing, but, instead they're cheering. I don't know who the PR guy was for Cuomo or for the Democrats in the Senate, the state Senate and state assembly, but boy, whoever it was an idiot. Because if he didn't think the optics of that were going to go viral and people were going to be generally upset about it, because if they had just appealed to liberals saying, yeah, we don't we don't like abortion. I know you don't like it either, but we have to do this so women are free from the bonds of raising children and can have an independent life. They said, yeah, that law does kind of suck. That is kind of hard on the kid. It's like, God, you're going to be able to kill a kid in the ninth month. God, that's terrible. But yeah, okay, I understand your argument. But instead they're like, yay, we're killing babies. And let me tell you something. Again, liberals, they must live in this bubble up there in Albany because I don't think they have a clue what's going on in the rest of the country. Or, to say Manhattan and Albany, the capital of New York. But yeah, because there's been a lot of negative pushback on that law. And then, of course, the governor of Virginia, and then, of course, he gets tied into plus that his statements would have kind of gone unnoticed. Then he got caught up in that scandal with the whole Klan outfit and blackface. And then, of course, Trump brought it front and center and said, look, this guy's even talking about executing babies on the table. Well, they can say, "Oh, we don't like this governor of Virginia because of the blackface thing." Well, okay, are you okay with him with the letting babies die on the table at the hospital? Are you okay with that? Really? Okay. But anyway, let's get back to the Washington Times story on the President's State of the Union speech. So let's see here. So Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer compared Mr. Trump's delivery to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, reaching out to his audience on family-friendly issues such as drug pricing, but dividing viewers on immigration and abortion. Democratic strategist Jim Manley called the president's proposal to combat HIV transmission, fight childhood cancer, enact family paid leave, modest proposals. Jesus, God, what's he supposed to do? Designed to appeal to bipartisanship, wrapped up in a pretty ugly and divisive speech. Well, good for him. He's an idiot. Okay. He especially criticized the president's warning that he won't work with Democrats if they engage in what Mr. Trump called ridiculous partisan investigations of his administration. If he and his team, this is the Democrat talking, if he and his team thought this was a speech that was going to focus on bipartisanship and outreach to Democrats, I think they failed miserably. Well, no, he wasn't reaching out to Democrats, you dumbass. Now, this guy's an idiot. This is why the Democrats can't win a national election anymore, in my opinion, because this guy didn't realize who Trump was reaching out to. He wasn't reaching out to the leftist Democrats. He wasn't reaching out to Charles Schumer and Nancy Pelosi with that speech. Okay? I mean, he could bring him in his office and try to reach out to him like he did. He was reaching out to the American people, specifically the independents. Like Mr. Douchebag was saying, people who sit center left, people who sit center right, or sit dead center. That's who he's reaching out to, and a big group of those people who sit in those positions are independents. And again, according to the CBS poll, he picked up 82%. 82%. That is a crazy number. I just want everybody to realize how crazy that number is. That is an insane number. 82% of independents approved of that speech. That's insane. That is over the top, crazy. If you had told me that if you had told me Monday night President's going to get an 82% approval rating from independents on his State of the Union, I would have said you are full of it. You are some partisan Republican hack, partisan Trump supporter, seeing the president with rose-colored glasses. There's no way in hell he's going to get 82% approval rating of that State of the Union speech with independents. And lo and behold, what's he get? That's how insane that number is. I mean, that's remarkable. That's who he was trying to reach out to. That's whose outreach was to. And the Democrats were sitting in there, Pelosi was sitting behind him, and the liberal leftist nutcakes wearing their white outfits. Okay, those people, you know what they were? They were props. They were props. Okay, and he used them, and he played them like a fiddle. And he showed the Democrats, Ben Shapiro did a pretty good story on this one, and he showed them to what they were. They wouldn't cheer for the lowest black unemployment in history. They wouldn't cheer for the lowest Hispanic unemployment in history. They wouldn't even cheer with Americans with disabilities' lowest unemployment in history. They wouldn't cheer, clap, or even stand up. But boy, women unemployment, lowest like in history, yay, they all stand up because they're selfish, self-centered people. Most women in Congress ever, yay, they can stand up for themselves, but they can't stand up for anybody else, which is the definition of liberalism. Stand up for yourself, virtue signals everybody else, and make everybody else's life more miserable. I mean, they show their true colors at that State of the Union, and they don't realize how much of a prop they were. I think they realize it now. Now they realize they got played. They got played big time. And then when they were up there cheering, and then somebody started cheering USA, they had two choices. They could either not be cheering USA, and they knew the American people were watching, and whether left, right, center, whoever, you know, well, a lot of people on the left don't love this country, but a lot of people in this country do. The people you need votes from, the independents, people in the center. Okay, and they started yelling when the Republicans started that USA chant. When all those women were up there jumping up and down, looking like a bunch of idiots, cheering and high-fiving each other because women's unemployment was low and women were in Congress. They had two choices: either cheer USA or don't cheer USA. If they didn't cheer USA, the optics, trust me, would have been horrible. So they had to join in the Trump's cheers of USA, USA, which is what you hear at Trump rallies. You didn't hear that at Clinton rallies. You heard that at Trump rallies. So that's why Cortez said one of the things that she said after the State of the Union when she was on MSNBC was, I wasn't sure if I was at a Trump rally or a State of the Union. Yeah, hey, stupid, guess what? You were part of the Trump rally. That was you standing up high-fiving people while the president was speaking about women in Congress and women unemployment, and that was you sitting there yelling USA, USA, just like a Trump rally. Hey, you've been played, stupid. All of you got played. You were all nice props. Thanks for the props. Thanks for the prop work, because he was talking to independents and people in the center. Center right, center left, dead center, independents, Republicans he has, okay? And you saw the poll number, 97% approval from Republicans. Well, okay. But, there's nothing wrong with showing up your base, don't get me wrong. But you got to reach out and get others like independents to win those, especially those Midwest states. But anyway, so this Democratic strategist, boy, does he have it wrong. I hope he runs. I hope he's in charge of the DNC. They put him in charge of the DNC for 2020 because he was like, oh well, they're not, he'll be in his little bubble, saying the president wasn't reaching out to any Democrats. The Democrats aren't going to give him anything on this wall. But he was showing the American people how reasonable he's been, how reasonable he is. The Democrats slap his hand after he holds it out now. Independents will be like, well, you people are just assholes. Just give the guy his goddamn wall. It's like, shit. Oh, I blaspheme. Sorry. But anyway, so, that, that's, it was classic. This was, I think it was definitely the best State of the Union speech I've ever listened to. And I've listened to a lot since probably, I want to say 77, 78. I think I started listening to him. But the best one I ever heard, for sure, including Reagan's. I'm sorry. Hey, the first president I got to vote for was Ronald Reagan in 1984. I couldn't vote for him in 1980 because I wasn't old enough yet. Okay, but 1984 I did. But this was the best, and it was probably one of the best speeches ever. Best speeches ever given by Donald Trump. He's given some great speeches too. That's a lot to say because I've heard some great speeches. I was in Vegas when he gave a campaign speech for the guy who lost, the Republican who was a never Trumper who said he wasn't voting for Trump, and Trump still went down there to try to support him, but it was a bridge too far for a lot of Republicans, I think, to really get excited about. I can't remember the guy's name, Crescent Hardy. I want to say that's his name. God, I'm probably wrong. I can't remember the guy's name already. God. But I remember being really pissed off in 2016 when he came out against Trump. Because Trump, grabbed the women by their vagina statement, he's like, oh, I can't vote for him now. It's like, really, that one statement, you're going to allow Clinton to win and destroy the country. Because he's had this one sentence. Oh, okay, boy, you're a real in-depth politician there. You're a lot of deep thought for you. It's like, man, where did he go to school? What an idiot. But let's see. So let's get back to the story real quick. So let's see here. I think they failed miserably. Mr. Maley said there's very little, if anything, in that speech that appealed to Democrats. Again, he wasn't appealing to the left, but he got 30%. Like Mr. Douchebag said, that's probably like your mainstream Democrats, your center-left Democrats. Again, he's appealing to people in the center, dead center left, center right. Yeah, the far left, no. He wasn't appealing to them. You can't. Why bother? Who cares? And if you appeal to them, you lose everybody else. So let them sit over there by themselves. Meanwhile, the rest of the country all supported the president's speech. These people are by themselves. They are a minority of people. They are stupid. But anyway, all right. Let's see. There's very little, if anything, in that speech that appealed to Democrats, especially his rhetoric on immigration and the threat, implied or otherwise, that there will be lack of legislation if Democrats investigate the Trump administration. As if on cue, Adam Schiff, Mr. Dumbass himself, As if on cue, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, California Democrat, announced Wednesday that the panel will launch a sweeping investigation of the president's ties to Russia. Holy shit. Oh. Really? Like the Mueller team hasn't spent the last, God, it'll be 2 years this April, checking every single lead potential relationship between the president and Russia, the president's family and Russia, the president's associates and Russia, the president's campaign people and Russia. The Mueller team with their huge, huge legal team, private investigators, FBI agents, everything under the sun. And now Schiff goes, oh, I'm going to use my committee subpoena power to do a real deep dive investigation, deeper than Robert Mueller's investigation. Really, really. I mean, how narcissistic can you get? He knows he's not going to find anything more than Mueller found. And, I mean, first of all, by definition, he can't. I mean, a congressional committee can't even begin to have the same kind of reach and power and go to U.S. District Court and get all kinds of wiretap abilities, subpoenas, and search warrants, and arrest warrants. I mean, a congressional committee can't do that. So this can be a nice waste of time for his committee. Instead of the Intelligence Committee focusing things like on intelligence, like ISIS, like the Taliban, like Al Qaeda, like threats to us that we don't know about yet, but we're trying to look, forward thinking into the future. Instead of his committee focusing on that, he's going to focus on this. Even though we got a whole independent counsel, I think it's called independent counsel or special counsel, whatever the hell they call them, doing all this with a great team. And when I say great, I mean like really tenacious guys. Okay, just because you don't like who they're going after and even why they're going after them. You can't argue this is like one hell of a great team of attorneys out there and guys that are just, gung-ho, just dedicated, just chasing after Trump left way and sideways. And they haven't found anything. So Schiff, a moron, like compared to the Mueller team, is going to find something that these guys weren't able to find. And the entire power of the FBI that Mueller's been grabbing onto and being able to use. Okay, really? Why? Why should we believe that? Who is this Adam Schiff guy except a complete idiot who got duped by a couple of Russian radio personalities into thinking like they had secret stuff on Trump, and even they were emailing back and forth with the staff and everything. Okay, this guy is going to find more than Bob Mueller's team. Yeah, okay. What century is that in? Is that going to happen? So anyway, as if on cue, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, California Democrat, announced Wednesday that the panel will launch a sweeping investigation into the president's ties to Russia and his personal finances. Yes, his personal finances, just designed to just mess with him. Hold on a sec. There we go. All right, let's see. Mr. Trump called Mr. Schiff a political hack. Yep. Who has no basis for the probe. Right, he has no basis to go into the president's personal finances. What, he's going to find like an investment, he's going to find money wire transferred from a Trump bank account to a secret offshore account that Mr. Putin holds in some weird name, and like, oh, see, there it is, or vice versa. Dial meter research by Democratic pollster Stan Greenberg during the State of the Union speech showed that voters gave Mr. Trump some of their most favorable reactions of the night when he talked about pre-existing conditions, bipartisan cooperation on infrastructure, and lowering drug prices. Mr. Greenberg noted on Twitter. Yep, let me pull this down. Hold on so I can see the rest of the story. Boop. Now, that's important, okay, because I'm sorry, we missed it in 2018. We missed this healthcare issue, okay? We missed how important it was to the American people. And that's a big reason why we lost the House and lost it by as many seats as we did. There was something out there that we weren't picking up on. The American people were really, really worried about health care. They're really worried about the fact that the Republicans in 2 years hadn't done anything to fix it. Really worried about premiums being out of control. Really worried about if they're going to have health care. They were probably running into problems with hospitals and lack of competition and everything else. And since in 2 years now, it went from being the Obama health care plan, since Republicans control the White House, the House, and the Senate. Yes, I know we didn't have a filibuster-proof majority, but most American people, you explain that to them, they get glassy-eyed, they look at you like they're falling asleep. All they knew is they saw us in control of the Senate, the House, and the White House, obviously. And you had talking heads on MSNBC and CNN saying, well, he controls the Senate, he controls the House. Even Pelosi saying, well, you have the Senate. And Trump just looked at her like, cut the shit. You know I didn't have a filibuster-proof majority. That's when he turned to Schumer. He goes, you weren't going to give me 10 votes for you. I needed 10 votes. Were you going to give me 10 votes? Schumer goes, hell no, I wasn't going to give you 10 votes. Well, see? And he looked at Pelosi. See? I couldn't get anything through there, okay? You know that. So stop talking out your ass to your stupid, low IQ constituents who believe stupid shit like that. But anyway, so the fact that he was talking about lowering drug prices, that can be done. It's going to cost a few bucks. George W. Bush did it, and it cost a shitload of bucks, a ton of money. I think it's now Medicare Part B, I think it is, or Part D, I can't remember. But it's popular, okay? And people are for it. And the American people were jumping up and down during this speech when he talked about lowering drug prices, and also when he talked about the pre-existing conditions. Democrats scared the shit out of people in 2018 about you're going to lose your ability to have health insurance if you have a pre-existing condition. Well, we saw, one of the things we watched Michael Moore's movie Sicko, and it actually was a good movie. If you don't like it, tough shit. I liked it. About the pre-existing conditions, how they zap people off. Even after you get a surgery, they initially approve you. They'll go back, look at your history. They find if you had something silly. They say, oh, that was a pre-existing condition you didn't disclose. You say, well, I didn't think that was I had a hangnail. I went to the doctor for a hangnail to get the hangnail cut off. Well, that's a pre-existing condition. You didn't disclose it. We're going to deny coverage. Michael Moore was right on that. And the American people obviously are afraid of it. And we kind of scoffed it off in 2018 thinking, oh, that's not a big issue for them. The economy is going to drive this. The tax cuts are going to drive this. No, it didn't. We were wrong. We missed it. Well, good. Somebody in the White House woke up and said, oh, shit, we missed this. And we don't want to get caught with our pants down in 2020. So they're being proactive. And they're saying, okay, look, we're going to take care of this pre-existing condition thing, and he better damn well take care of it. Send a bill up there. Find some idiot in the Senate to say, here's this bill, and find a Democrat who's going to be against pre-existing conditions and lowering drug prices. You could find a couple of people in the Senate to sponsor this, co-sponsor it, have bipartisan support, and then shoot it to the House and let Pelosi go, oh shit, because the name of the bill is going to have those guys' names on it, and the first name is going to be Republican because the Republican controls Senate. So make it some real conservative that everybody knows, too. People like, oh, it must be a conservative bill. And then president have a big signing thing, and bring Democrats in and stuff. Everybody's all happy. And infrastructure, I've been saying that. That's big. Only problem with that is everybody wants a piece of it. There's 435 districts out there, all going to want a piece of that pie. You spread it out too thin, it doesn't do anything. Certain places are where the bridges need to be built, redone, roads, highways, airports. They're talking about using money for schools also. I don't know about that. I'm not a big fan of that. Let the states take care of that issue. But, again, roads, bridges, highways, airports, that kind of thing. That's always popular. It puts people to work locally. People can see it as long as you can actually move on it fast. When Obama did the infrastructure bills, only $700 billion. You got to do a minimum $1 trillion. Yes, trillion with a T. Sorry. If you're going to do this, you got to do it right. You can't do $230 billion. No. It's got to be a big freaking number. I don't know, $1.5 trillion. And it's oh, the deficit. Yeah, I know. I got it. Okay? But it has to get done. Okay? So infrastructure is always popular, when people can actually see a project going up there. And you put a big sign, I don't care. Put a big sign up saying Trump's infrastructure, brought to you by Donald J. Trump. I don't give a shit. Put a sign up that says that. First of all, why not put a sign up that says that? And then people actually see it, and then people going to work. They know they're working on a federal project. They're all prevailing wage jobs, high-paying jobs, good money. They're union. You get your benefits as well. Does not have to be a union job. It has to be a prevailing wage job, okay? But unions generally set the scale that it works in construction. If you have to pay prevailing wage, you're generally going to go with a union contractor, with union employees. Why? Because you're paying the damn money out at that wage scale anyway. And with a union, you have people who are journeymen in the union have to go through an apprenticeship program, whether an electrician, a carpenter, an iron worker, tin knocker, you name it. They have to go through an apprenticeship program. So when you're paying that prevailing wage to somebody who's a journeyman, they've had to go through 2, 3, whatever years of an apprenticeship program, and so you can really say they are a journeyman. In order to advance from one period, they have 7 different stages, they call them periods of apprenticeship. To go from one stage to the next, you have to be in class every once a week for 3 or 4 hours. Trust me, I did it. I was a carpenter's apprentice for several years. Used to go in and out of the carpenters union while I was in college, and hell, even when I went to law school, I took 2 semesters off, went to work back and work in construction. So you got like 7 or 9 periods. In order to advance, you have to have one. You have to have your classroom hours, but you also have to have so many work hours in that quarter or that time period. I think I want to say quarterly. I can't remember. Whatever it is, so many hours you have to be working. So you have hands-on experience and classroom instruction, and then you get to advance to the next stage. And it's like 7, 9 stages depending on the trade. And every time you go up a stage, you just know more. You got more hands-on experience. You got more classroom instruction. You have higher levels of classroom instruction. So generally, what I'm trying to say is the general contractor has to pay prevailing wage anyway. Is rather hire a union contractor because he knows when they call somebody a journeyman, he's really a journeyman. Okay, versus some guy who's taking a chance on you're going to pay him what a journeyman would make, and maybe he's not journeyman material. Let's take a look at something right real quick here. All right. Beto going to run against Trump. Hopefully people do not fall for his BS talking points. Has the intelligence of believing the belly of a sumo wrestler. Hold on here, great douchebag. Michael Moore has the intelligence of believing the belly of a sumo wrestler is in Lethal Weapon. Laura Sanders just watching the show. I don't think Democrats even know what they're doing. Watching the show and trying not to get angry. Well, don't get angry, Laura. Don't get mad, get even. There you go. Because illegals were voting in our election. Yeah, I understand. Great douchebag as far as illegals voting in our election. Yeah, that did hurt. I'll give you that much. But we missed that big issue. That was a huge issue out there, and we missed it. Nobody addressed it, and plus the stupid rhino Republicans in both the House and the Senate didn't want to really tackle any big issues. And of course, John McCain, voting his thumbs down on the repeal and everything. Because he was an asshole. Whether he's dead or alive, he's still an asshole. Okay, sorry, but he was. But but anyway, let's see what else this guy has to say here. Let's see. So anyway, that's really big. The American people were jumping up and down about the infrastructure, the lowering drug price. Again, these are things that can be done. You could do 2 separate bills: infrastructure and then this pre-existing condition and the drug prices, and that can be done. And hopefully, somebody's got it on the shelf. I mean, this shouldn't be like, oh, no, what do we do? It's like, God damn it, somebody better already written one of these things. I mean, Health and Human Services should already have something already ready to go to hand off to a senator. I mean, hell, some insurance company lobbying group has got to have written or something up already because, they're going to get paid, obviously. So, obviously, they have to have something written up. I mean, the same people who wrote Obamacare, because that was a big boon to the insurance company. I'm sure these guys got something written up to say, hey, use this. I'm sure it'll be just fine. All right. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Kentucky Republican. Both the tone and the substance of his speech would strike. Hold on. Let me get up here. Page up. There we go. We strike a majority of CBS viewers and CNN viewers who watched the State of the Union address approved of President Trump's performance. Oh, wait. No, that's sorry. There's a little thing here. Hold on. Let's see. Senator Minority Controller compared liberty. Oh, where's the next column? Oh, that was the last column. Oh, that was the end of the speech. That was the end of it. Hold on. Oh, no, that wasn't it. Let's see. Where was it? Oh, okay, here we go. Let's see. McConnell saying any fair observer is reasonable and thoroughly bipartisan. McConnell saying any fair observer would treat it as reasonable and thoroughly bipartisan, which any fair observer did. Again, 82% of independents, even 30% of Democrats, 97% of Republicans. But the president's push to fund a border wall was panned, especially by Hispanics, blacks, and millennials. Mr. Greenberg tweeted, yeah, well, they've been brainwashed for the last 2 months on this issue. Mr. Trump's well-received performance also prompted a warning for Democrats about 2020 from none other than Michael Avenatti, the lawyer for adult film actress Stormy Daniels, and a fiancé and a fierce Trump critic who briefly toyed with a bid for the Democratic presidential nomination. He tweeted that the State of the Union speech should serve as a wake-up call for Dems. Trump is not to be underestimated in 2020, Mr. Avenatti tweeted. Too many people think the election will be a layup and he will be easily beaten. Not true. It will be an ugly battle for the future of the Republic, and the Dems better find a fighter. He added, for those that doubt me, go spend some time in king swing states like Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Talk to real working people, not just your friends that despise Trump, and then get back to me. 2020 will not be decided in California and New York. Wow. Even a broken clock gets it right twice. Boy, he's like, well, he's telling the way it was. I mean, look. Well, first of all, he doesn't have to be a genius to realize, talk to people in the swing states: Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Florida. I'd also add North Carolina to that as well to that, and Minnesota. I think you can see Minnesota and North Carolina. They were in play. Trump almost won Minnesota, and he squeaked out North Carolina. So you take Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Florida. I'd add in Minnesota and North Carolina to that as well. But he's saying that talk to real working people, not just your friends who hate Trump. And this election won't be decided in California, New York. He's right. California and New York are going to go blue in 2020. Okay, it's already part of the Republican math. They already know those are gone. New York, New Jersey, California, Washington, Oregon, gone, 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 gone. Probably Colorado. Okay, I'm sure they're already planning on losing Colorado, like we lost last time. So okay, so where's the fight? Well, fight's the same place as it was last time. I mean, hell, Tim Russ used to say before he said Florida, Florida, Florida. I think he used to say Ohio, Ohio, Ohio. Again, it's the Midwest. And if Trump can keep delivering on bringing back manufacturing jobs, reopening steel plants, getting people working back there, showing them that he cares about them, it's going to be real hard nut to crack for the Democrats. What are they going to run on? What? Not to mention if the black male vote keeps heading Republican ways, then I'll just take it state by state: Ohio, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Michigan, Lansing, Detroit, Wisconsin, Madison, Milwaukee, Pennsylvania, Erie, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Jacksonville. There you go. Okay? If the black male vote keeps moving in the right direction, namely to the right, and again, we don't need 90% of the male black vote. You don't need 80%. You just need a nice percentage. A nice percentage. Anything over 30 is phenomenal. Because those votes are those are what Democrats normally say we have. Okay, we don't have to work to get those. We got that. Well, if you're losing them, you got one of two choices. One, you just write them off, which you can't. Not if you're a Democrat. If you're a Democrat, you want to win in these states, you have to have the black vote. You can maybe make it up with the black woman vote, but you need the black man vote too. So if you're losing those. Losing the black male vote in those key places that you normally count on as part of your math for winning, your part of your calculus, if you will, for winning those states, you got two choices. One, you can write them off, or two, you have to go fight for them. Okay, now if you're going to go fight for them, that means you got to put energy, time, and money into those places that you normally weren't expecting to do. You were trying to hope to go out to the suburbs and try to get independents and swing voters. You weren't hoping to have to go chase after your own base, spend money on your own base. And that's just less money, time, and resources they have to go other places. Not to mention, if you have to go after your own base, because what you want to do in a general is you don't want to spend too much time talking to you don't want to spend too much time. I don't want to use this word, but I will use it. Pandering to your base, okay? Because you got your base, at least you should, and so you don't want to go after their issues because then you might turn off the other issue, turn off the other people you're trying to go after: independents, center right, center left, etc. So the Democrats have to pander to their base to keep them on board. Then they're going to turn off a lot of independent swing voters as well at the same time. Excuse me a second. Let me get some water. Thank you, guys. I'm back. There's some water there. You don't realize when you talk for a long time that you need to drink some water. So I'm realizing that. But anyway, so again, those states are, Avenatti's right. You better start talking to these people in those states. And if you think like, oh, because all your friends are saying the same thing you are, Trump sucks and oh, no way he can win. Well, they said, well, remember now, it was only a few years ago. They said the same exact thing about him in the general election of 2016. Oh, we got this. No way he can win. Nobody's going to vote for him. That'll never happen. Then, of course, you saw the meltdown shows, with people realizing, oh, shit, he's going to win. Like, what the hell was that about? But anyway, so let's see, continue on with this story. Mr. Trump will hold his first campaign rally of the 2020 election cycle on Monday in El Paso, Texas. Oh, you just got done talking about that city. Went from one of the most dangerous cities in the country to one of the safest. To draw attention to border security ahead of next week's deadline, probably going to show the pictures of the wall and the fence while he's there. To draw attention to border security ahead of next week's deadline in Congress for funding the Department of Homeland Security. The president is still requesting money for a border wall, and Democratic leaders are still refusing. The same situation led to a 35-day government shutdown that began in late December. Yep. So that's pretty much where that's going right now. I mean, it's like nobody's moving. It's a real shame nobody's moving on that issue. There's a call-in number again. Everybody wants to call in. Call-in number is 775-273-8970. Video link, ca2jogger@gmail.com. If you want to appear on a video link, live video link. USA, yeah, damn straight, man. Damn straight, Voltron. There you got it. Laura Sanders. Now that woman makes me angry along with TWS. All right, so let's see what we got going on here. All right, so let's see. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. I started reading some of the chat. I got distracted. Sorry, it was good chat there. But anyway, yeah, call in, or if you want to appear on a video link where you go side by side with me, and you're on video, and let's see, looking like, let's see, I gotta fix this somehow. Well, I really want to fix that. Let's see. Well, it's a little off center, but you get the idea. But anyway, if you want to go on looking like that, except it's a little off center, then you can go on a live video feed, and you'll be in the box if you're looking at to your right, and on the box to the left. But you can do that. But let's see here. Or you can just call in. Call-ins are always welcome. All right, let's see. Let's get to the next story here that I wanted to cover. Let's see here. All right, let's see. Oh, this is interesting. Let's talk about this because I didn't see this story earlier, but it sounds like it's interesting. Hold on here. Let's push this up here so you can see it. Cut. And get me on here. Oh. There I am. Republican senators reveal new rules for nominees. Under plan, debate time limit after defeated filibuster is reduced. So the amount of debate time, I guess, will be reduced after a filibuster is defeated. Interesting. Let's see what they have to say. Again, this is by Alex Warrior of the Washington Times. Again, big shout out to the Washington Times. Thank you for making it so nice and easy for us YouTube creators to, you have to subscribe to the newspaper to get this newspaper rather. So definitely worth it. It's like, I don't know what it is, like $7-9 a month. I don't know, whatever it is, it's well worth it and if you subscribe, you get just not the newspaper, but you get this newspaper, which has all these wonderful bells and whistles. It makes it very, very simple to put on YouTube. I mean, super simple, but it's a win-win. Again, they get exposure, they get their stories exposed, the name of the newspaper, the reporters, and I get great news, fair news, and I get to see all this stuff. So it's great. And you get to see it too because I get to put it up here in a format you can see it. That's easy to read. So anyway, again, thank you so much to the Washington Times for doing that. All right, Republican senators reveal new rules for nominees by Alex Warrior of the Washington Times. Republican senators unveiled a new set of chamber rules Wednesday that would allow them to speed President Trump's nominations through on an expedited basis, limiting Democrats' ability to slow walk the process and throttle the number of candidates who can be confirmed. Yeah, this is bullshit. I mean, sorry, he won the election. Okay? Get over it. Stop it already. He's allowed to get his judges in. He's allowed to get his cabinet in, his staff members in. I mean, a lot of people, the seats are just vacant. Well, the government needs these people. I don't care. You need a body there to do stuff. The proposal written by Senate Rules Committee Chairman Roy Blunt and Senator James Lankford would reduce the maximum debate time after a filibuster has been defeated from 30 hours, that's insane, to 2 hours. That's much better for most nominees. Republicans have chafed as Democrats have used the filibuster to slow walk hundreds of Trump nominees, forcing the Senate to spend months on floor time to get their candidates into their jobs. The issue is about to become acute. The Senate Judiciary Committee is expected to approve 40 judicial picks this week, creating a glut of new nominations headed to the floor. Under current rules, at 30 hours of debate per nominee, the Senate can confirm perhaps 5 per week, meaning that it would take 8 weeks of floor time to go through the judgeships with no other major action intervening. Yeah, it means that if they're not doing anything else. Because every time they start something else, you got to stop that 30-hour clock. Okay, that's freaking ridiculous. Through the judgeships with no other major action intervening. That doesn't include hundreds of other nominees who will soon be stacked up. The new rules first will be debated in Mr. Blunt's committee. We're likely to have a markup on that within the next week, Mr. Blunt, Missouri Republican, told the Washington Times. The GOP could push. Hold on, I think it's GOP could push the rules through committee on a majority vote, but it would take a supermajority to win approval on the floor. Democrats who 6 years ago supported shorter time frames for nominees under President Obama are now more reluctant under Mr. Trump. Yeah, I wonder why. Yeah, no kidding. Under Mr. Trump. Okay, let's bring this up. Boom. We are going to go through the committee to see if there is bipartisan support for it. I hope we do it that way, but if we can't, just because people want to slow us down and drag their feet and prevent the president from filing these nominations, then I'd be willing to consider alternatives, said Senator John Cornyn, Texas Republican. The chief alternative would be to trigger the nuclear option, a shortcut that involves reinterpreting the rules. That can be done on a majority vote, though it's deeply controversial. It's a deeply controversial move that can undermine cooperation in a chamber that relies on comity. Okay, those days are gone. Okay, comity was during the Reagan years, during the Clinton years, and maybe to a certain extent during the George W. Bush years. Maybe. Okay. No, it wasn't. I'd go. The latest would have been Clinton. Okay. Where you had people on opposite sides of the aisle working together, especially in the Senate. The Senate used to be a body where people worked together, they got along, they were friends, and even though they disagreed on major issues, they didn't screw with each other over and over again. That's gone. Okay, I mean, when you have senators who literally have Trump derangement syndrome, senators like Chuck Schumer, who voted for the barrier offense both in 2006 and 2012. Who talked about, distinguish between illegal aliens and immigrants and saying illegal aliens, screw you, have a nice day on his speech. And now suddenly is like, oh no, walls are bad, barriers are bad, we're not going to do that, we want open borders. I mean, that's just Trump derangement syndrome. So when you have senators who are senators, forget the population, we have senators suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, the hell with this, use a nuclear option. Get these judges through. Okay, remember, ladies and gentlemen, if I remind you again, the big reason why the evangelicals came out for Trump, a known philanderer, adulterer, everything else over her, you can imagine, was because he promised them the judges. Okay? You got to keep that promise. You want the evangelicals not just to come out, maybe vote, whatever. You want them to volunteer, show up, at the polling places. You want them to show up, in those rooms where they're telephone calls, emailing people, walking, knocking on people's doors. Sorry, you still got this. I don't give a shit if it's 2019. We're going to be 2020 soon, and we all got cell phones. You got to knock on people's doors. You can use your cell phone to pinpoint to tell you whose door you need to knock on. Not everybody's door gets a knock. Okay, Obama did that in 2008. He did it successfully as far as not knocking on everybody's door. Then Michael Steele did it, the Republican Party, in 2010, I want to say. And the RNC did it in 2016. I know because I had one of those I had a cell phone that had that program on it, and it showed you who exactly door you need to knock on. You don't walk down the street and knock on everybody's door. It's a waste of time. You pinpoint people whose door you're going to knock on, people who vote a lot, people who could potentially vote your way, people around the fence, and the demographics, all that lays out in there for you. It's a beautiful program. It was on my phone, okay? So, but nonetheless, though, that phone only gets you to the front door. You still got to knock on the door and talk to somebody. So the evangelicals are great at that. And where do a lot of evangelicals reside? I don't know. Maybe in those states we just talked about. Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Okay? Right there, ladies and gentlemen. Right there. And a whole bunch in the South. There's North Carolina. Okay? You'd be surprised. There's a whole bunch of them in Florida, in the Panhandle area, in the center of the state, Tampa, and all that stuff. I mean, you cannot and they have to be excited. Okay, for people, remember now, these are Republicans. We work for a living. Okay, we have jobs. Okay, we don't sit at home to collect EBT cards. So these are people who, after they get off work, are willing to get up and go walk the streets. You have to be really excited about that. If Trump is delivering on the judges, these people are going to be excited. So that's going to be very, very important. So he's got to deliver on these judges. They got to pull the nuclear option on this. So be it. Let him pull the nuclear option. Oh, have a good one, Mr. Voltron. Let's see. Later at Voltron. There you go. Boom. All right. And so, let's see. Let's get back to this story. Let's see here. So anyway, so this would actually be great if they could change the rules on this. And Democrats used to use a supermajority in 2013 to cut the number of votes needed to overcome a filibuster on most nominees from 60 to a simple majority. And Republicans in 2017 used a nuclear option. There we go. To extend the majority filibuster threshold of Supreme Court nominees. Mr. Lankford, who has been reaching out to Democrats on his proposal, said some of them may think they'll win back the White House in 2020 and figure it's better to change the rules now so they can avoid the sort of obstruction they have mounted against Mr. Trump. That's what you should be telling them. Hey, you guys say you're going to win in 2020 and you're going to have the Senate, so why not do this now? Because otherwise we're going to put up a big fight if you're in charge. Well, that may be something. There's more of a sense we probably should stop this game, Mr. Lankford said. His proposal would still leave a 30-hour time frame in place for Supreme Court and Circuit Court nominees and cabinet-level posts in the executive branch. But district court nominees and lower-level administration posts would only face 2 hours of debate. Republicans say the rules change are needed because the Democrats' unprecedented level of resistance to Mr. Trump's nominees, unprecedented level of resistance to Mr. Trump's nominees. GOP leaders over the last 2 years had to move to head off a potential filibuster of 148 of Mr. Trump's nominees in the last 2 years. Okay, wait. In the last 2 years of Mr. Obama's tenure, just 2 nominees needed to overcome filibuster tests. What do you think about that for a second? In the last 2 years since Trump got elected, they've had 148 filibuster fights on nominees. The Democrats put up 148 fights. Now, Democrats always say Republicans are the obstructionists, right? We're the bad guys. Okay. They did it 148 times. The last 2 years of the Obama administration, Republicans only made them do a filibuster fight 2 times. 148 to 2. That's 72 times, 74 times the amount. We're not the obstructionists. We're not the bad guys, okay? We're always the cooperative one. We always give in. Okay, but the other ones, they don't. And this article, I think, demonstrates that. So 148 of Trump's nominees had to go through a filibuster, bash-out fight, whereas the last 2 years of the Obama administration, only 2 had to go through that fight. Only 2. And the Republican controlled the Senate at the time. So there you go. But anyway, let me cut over here. Let's see, take myself down here. All right, let's go over to the chat. All right, but anyway, it looks like we've been on for like 2 hours and 20 minutes or so. And so we're probably going to go and end the live stream for tonight. I don't see anybody else calling in right now. Mr. Voltron promised he'd call in. I'm still here calling. Hey, Mr. Voltron, you promised you'd call in. You haven't called in. I wonder why. You should. I'm going to put the number back up just in case you say, well, I don't know the number. There you go. You know it now. But yeah, so there's the number. It is, if you wanted to call in, that'll be fine. And, I thought you said you were taking off. Let's see, saying goodnight. We'll catch the end of tomorrow. Oh, that's Lauren saying goodnight. Oh, sorry, Lauren, I missed you on that one. All right, so, Mr. Voltron, if you want to call in, again, there's a number, 775-273-8970. Otherwise, I covered pretty much all the stories out of the Washington Times I wanted to cover for tonight. So I will soon, bud. Does that mean you will soon call in tonight or call in another time? Because I'm getting ready to end the live stream, so don't know what you mean by that. Need a little more specification. Let's see, Carl, do you have a schedule? No, you know what? And here's the problem, Voltron. It's kind of a problem. It's kind of not a actually, it's not a problem if you think about it. I'm an attorney, right? So I have a full-time work schedule. Well, I don't work. I'm a really good attorney, so that doesn't mean I work. So I don't work 8 to 5. I work when I work extra hours when I have to work extra hours. I had to go visit somebody in the jail last night around 6. And that kind of stuff. So I don't have a set schedule, unfortunately. So it's like when my other gig allows me to do this, and my other gig is my passion. So. But anyway, all right, guys, have a good night. I'll end you guys with some music here. So let me find some for you. And let's see where we got here. All right, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's in the chat, everybody who watches later. And thank Mr. Douchebag for calling in. And thank the Washington Times for their great reporting. And if you like the video, please hit the like on it. And if you like it a lot, then please hit subscribe. So let's go ahead and get you guys some music to cut on out of here with. All right, guys, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Still lie on the fumes. I've done everything I know I can do. I'm still up on you. I'm still up on you. Bags underneath my eyes. All of these sleepless nights without you in my life. Nothing I can try to get you off my mind. There's no good reason why. I'm still